All right, so welcome everyone to the semifinals of Empire Wars Duo 2 here. Miguel and Dogao versus Max and Viles in this best of 7. We will have Aussie Drongo joining me for the co-cast, so let's welcome him in the casting booth. Hello there.
G'day. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm hyped. It's semifinals time. I hope you're hyped as well. We had a pretty lengthy draft process over here, but that's just the case with live sets. This is going to be live, so we will have a little bit of time to talk between breaks.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. A lot of civilization diversity in here. It's just incredible how many civs have been picked up here. Glad to see the Bohemians did get picked. It was the last pick out of everybody. So, some of those DLC civs finally coming through.
Exactly. I was scared that we will just not have it because there was a debate at the beginning of the tournament. Like the DLC came out when the tournament already started, and we had to make a decision whether or not we include the new civs or not. And we decided, okay, we're gonna ask the players. Most of the players said, let's go for the new civilizations as well. But we only saw the Bohemians played a couple of times. Poles were only picked once in the entire tournament so far, and that still seems to remain that way.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing that it remained that way because for Age of Empires 3, we've had new DLC recently as well, but the balance has been a little bit. Uh, well, let's just say if there was a tournament hosted right now, you'd probably see a lot of those new African civilizations. So it's good that the Bohemians and the Poles are a little bit lower on that threshold.
Yeah, exactly. There is quite a few civilizations in here. In fact, 32 civilizations get picked here for the teams out of the 39 that's currently available in the game. And we're going to see the majority of them being used here as well. So, best of 7, which means that if we play 7 games, we'll have 14 civilizations used per team.
That's a lot of civilizations. Is there anything in particular that you're looking forward to seeing here? Obviously, other than the Bohemians.
I think that the key thing to look at right now is how the teams can use their sort of second tier civilizations. So far the entire tournament has been best of fives. So teams have a pretty well established idea on how to draft for best of five. We know what are the civilizations that are frequently used, what are the ones that are popular for a reason, obviously. But now you have a best of seven, so you have to pick some civilizations that you're not that much used to drafting or using in these maps. And I kind of feel like a difference maker, especially when the two teams are this close in skill, could be how good those extra four civs that you had to draft compared to a best of seven are here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense when as you get towards those last couple games and you've exhausted all the good civilizations or the ones that you're comfortable with, you're left with these tough choices like the last choices that we saw the Japanese, the Turks, the Malians, Bohemians. I'm looking forward to the last game because it's going to be, you start off the first game, it's going to be Vikings out there. It's going to be the Franks. And then the last game, it's just going to be, well, it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, I feel like it also depends on how much you're going to use your sort of weaker civilizations at the beginning, because it might make sense to try and play a slightly later draft pick quite early on, sort of use up your, in quotation marks, weaker civs, and then just save some of your best civilizations for later rounds, because it is very possible that this could go into 7 games. The two teams are super even on skill. Heresy has won all their sets so far that they played in the tournament, but they always won with a decider game, always 3-2 scoreline. Whereas for
Wow.
Suomi, they had a rough start. They actually lost 3-1 to My Insanity, so they had to play the elimination game in their group, then decider game, and then march in here through the quarterfinals into the semifinals. And really, they stepped up their game really heavily here, especially Max. Max had a kind of underwhelming start at the beginning of the tournament, but then he really stepped his game up, and this is actually one of the best Maxes I have seen in a long time.
Yeah, it's good to hear. I guess one of the things for me to note is that a lot of the closed maps have been taken away. Obviously, we don't have hidden treasures. We don't have Canberra, my personal favorite map for not necessarily because it's a balanced map, but because it's my hometown. It's where I'm from. But a lot more open maps here. We've got maps like Atacama, which is always great fun. I do love that one. Also Riverbelt as well. Is there you mentioned earlier that some of those picks, the Bohemians, Malians, Japanese, Turks, the later picks, looking at potentially getting them up into the earlier maps so that you've got stronger civs in those later maps. Can you see anything that you would particularly go for on one of these maps with those I guess less meta civilizations?
It's hard to say. I think one of the more interesting civilizations to use here is Turks, because Turks is not generally your standard cavalry civilization, but if it's used well, it could be really powerful. They get the free light cavalry upgrade to their scouts, so on a map like Cape of Storms, for example, it could be a sneaky pick. It hasn't really been used so far because there are better picks for that map, but when you sort of exhaust all those civilizations, you might need to use this one somewhere, and it might be a reasonable spot. I think the key thing is what order they're going to be picking their maps, because when a certain team loses, they will go to their home map, and they can decide which home map to go for. So they can play around a little bit with this. Okay, we want to go for this map and maybe use up this pair of civilizations. So there's a lot of mind games in here trying to ensure that even if you use one of your weaker civilizations, you don't necessarily put yourself in a very, very tough spot on that map.
Right, that makes perfect sense. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Do you have an ETA on roughly when the action's going to begin?
Uh, Soon. That's what we can see. That's just the way AoE 2 goes. Okay, the players are apparently almost ready, so we should have a game in the next couple of moments. I'm certainly hoping so, at least. This is just the way it works with AoE 2. Anyone that has been around in the competitive Age of Empires DLC knows that, well, 20 minutes late is not late. Like, back when I started casting AoE 2, it was frequent that I got home 1.5 hours after the set start, and I could start casting from game number 1 because they just arrived to play. So,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. There's a saying in the military: if you're 15 minutes early, you're 5 minutes late. So I assume it's the it's the opposite over here. Um,
yeah, it's a
no,
sort of. Sort of. It's like, okay, we are only 20 minutes behind. That's perfectly fine. But
right. Okay.
it's all right. Once we actually get going, it's going to be much easier. So it looks
It's
like
been so long since I've casted or even looked at sort of live games. For Age of Empires 3, we don't actually have access to live games. We do, but it doesn't always work. And so, it's a real treat to be able to watch live games and do live games. I just feel like there's just so much more energy in them. The fact that it's happening live right there before your eyes, it makes it all the difference. And,
exactly.
I really look forward to sort of getting into it and watching it, because once the ball gets rolling, it's gonna happen quick.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why the later stages of tournaments are usually live games, because there is a lot more hype into that. We're actually very lucky that the servers are now working fine, because throughout the entire week we had massive server issues. So even the quarterfinals yesterday was planned to be live games, but we just wasn't sure if the servers will be operational around that time. And like they were semi-functional, so it took like 20 minutes to host the lobby. So that wasn't really suitable for live show, but it looks like the servers woke up just in time, so we will have live show here. And as you said, it's always great to have all the action unfold in front of your eyes. It's not just knowing that, okay, this is a recorded game. So looks like everybody is ready. So if the Age of Empires gods will, we will have a game here. We'll have a spectator delay. That's just standard for tournaments because, well, it is what it is. There are some restrictions with live sets. So what we know for now is that we start with Arabia, and we'll have Franks and Chinese versus Huns and Britons here. And this is what I wanted to refer to Huns here. Huns would, in best of fives, normally be picked on Cape of Storms because it's such a powerful civ there. But when you have so many maps, you might not have good cavalry civilizations for all, and you just have to say, okay, I will have to use my Huns on Arabia, and then settle with something else for Cape of Storms.
That makes a lot of sense. I guess my question is, do they have anything that you can think of that would have been better for them instead of going for Huns? Obviously, they had access to things. I'm just looking
Uh,
through the civs at the moment. I mean, they've got Mongols.
it's
Um,
hard to say. I think um, if we look at their cavalry civs, Berbers is a lock for Golden Pit. That's by far the best civilization there. Kawasan is a question mark. I think Huns would actually be pretty reasonable for Kawasan, but you have other alternatives there. I think if they really want to save Huns, their only reasonable Arabia cavalry civilization pick is Slavs. That's an alright
hmm.
cavalry civ for Arabia. It's pretty decent, but there are probably better options in Empire Wars. In general, I feel like Suomi doesn't have a huge amount of amazing cavalry civilizations. They have a lot of solid ones, but none of them are super duper amazing, especially now that they use Huns up here. There are some question marks about the cavalry civs on other maps, so I'm curious how they will play that. But the Spectator countdown is just gone, and we will jump into game number 1, semifinals time. It is obviously massive hype over here for the players, and also the other thing to consider is that this is now best of 7, so attrition and factors like this one will also come into play. So welcome everybody to Arabia. We will have Miguel as Franks in blue, and Dogao is playing Chinese in green, right side. Vilas as red Britons, and Max as yellow Huns.
So it's going to be the left versus the right, the classic. We already see the walls beginning to build. Hopefully, all players are going to be walling because I remember last time we were watching a similar game out like this on Arabia. The one player who didn't wall was focused and targeted down. So hopefully we see that happening here today. It looks like Veles is looking like he's decided he's not going to wall, but there those walls come up. So very fortunately, looks like he's going to be able to do that. And some early scout pressure just beginning out. Nothing too serious yet, but each player looking pretty reasonable at this point in time. Who do you think's going to be taking away the victory here? You got an early prediction for us, Lidicor?
That's extremely hard. I feel like this is really a coin flip type matchup. Suomi and Heresy are both really strong. They've been playing together with their respective teammates forever. And that looks like a dead villager. Dogao, beautiful micro there, picks off a villager from Max at the start.
A really, really nice start. And just because of that, I'm going to put my prediction right now into Heresy. So
Oh boy.
it's one of those things, but it looks like another villager maybe going down here very, very tightly gets inside into that tower. So going to be able to survive another day. But now we see the more and more scouts beginning to pile their way in, but walls are up, except for that little hole down there towards the south of the base. A little bit concerning. A second villager going to be moving out there. Let's see if Miguel is going to be able to spot that before that wall gets closed. They're moving quickly, those villagers, and are they going to have enough time before those walls get...
Oh, just
my
in
lord.
time.
Oh,
Miguel knew that
jeez.
there's probably gonna be an opening there, but he didn't get there just in time. So I guess Max is fine on the left side. The right side is still wide open, and there is definitely a chance to pick off some villagers. Meanwhile, though, on the other side, we do have Viles moving up with a couple of archers. And this is what really makes it tough to defend against the archer player as a cavalry civ. If he sends 2 spearmen with the 2 archers, your cavalry will really struggle cleaning him up. But on the other hand, Miguel has a considerable amount of cavalry, and he could easily jump the tower over here potentially, or just run past it and run straight into the base of the opponent. Dogao has some archers as well.
Yeah, it's definitely something a bit more difficult to do, but it's good to notice that he, despite having that early pressure, he's all walled up, he's all safe at the moment, not going to be losing too much with regard to villages or villager seconds. He did manage to get that house up as well, so he's going to be able to be protected quite well. Looks like we've got a Max going in for a full wall now at the front as well. He's got to be a bit careful though. This wall up here going on the back line for Veles going to take a little bit too long, but it doesn't look like there's much pressure behind there. He's got a couple spears just sitting there, just chilling out, just minding their own business. And now we've got a little bit of harassment on the wood line. Unfortunately for him, those archers just poking their little shots over. It's frustrating when they just sit there like that, and you've got to individually micro the villagers onto the tree. But now we've got scouts moving around the edge of the map, and it's great to see that this wall has gone up. But I don't think it's going to get up in time, Liticor. What do you reckon?
Okay, it looks like Miguel is just going to retreat, seeing the two spearmen. That's why you send the spears over there. That was a nice move from Vilas. That could have been a disaster. Now it looks like Dogao is going to need to help his teammate here because Miguel is getting double teamed, and now there is archers to prevent the revos.
Yeah, it's never a position you want to be getting double teamed like this up in the north corner of the map. But yeah, down towards the south now, we've got archers pushing across. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to reach that wood line, but despite that, we've got a second wall going to be going up here just to prevent any further harassment. Looks like a stone wall as well, so going to be having extra HP. And I think in seeing that, Degar was just walked around and said, you know what, I'm not even going to bother. But more and more harassment, more and more walls going up, and it seems to be the name of the game. We've now got two players heading up to the third H. We've got Max heading up for Suomi, and over on Heresy's side, we've got Miguel who's heading up to the third age. So not going to be too long before everybody is on their way up to the castle age.
Indeed, defensive tower is forced here from Miguel, which is a very nice value at this point. Because Miguel obviously wanted to avoid making that tower. He probably wanted to go multiple town centers in Castle Age. Max already made a tower, so he will probably play one town center for now and just play triple stable knights. So it's fine for him to go for the stone walls at his own base. But the fact that Miguel had to make a defensive tower over here is definitely good value for the Finns.
So with regard to the meta in 2v2 for Empire Wars, obviously Archer Cavalry is the name of the game. At what point a player is going to be adding in those additional town centers typically?
It's hard to say because, first of all, it's very hard to call this meta. This is the only Empire Wars 2v2 tournament, really. So, we don't really have a huge sample size, but from what we have seen, it very much seems like it depends on how good your feudal age is. If you have managed to pick off one or two villagers from the opponent, get a bit of an advantage, then you are probably good to go with just two stables, a little bit less knights, and add a second town center. But if the game is even, I think 3 stables, especially if you have a civilization that can afford to produce on all 3 of them, is probably more reasonable because you could easily get overrun by enemy knights and crossbows.
Right. Okay, makes perfect sense. So I'm looking forward. I'm going to be watching Miguel with a keen eye because as a newer player to Age of Empires 2, the advice I received was stick with one civilization. And, you know, me being a lamer, I Googled what's the best civ and it came up, you know, with Spirit of the Laws video and he just said Franks. So I said, I'm going to stick with Franks. So I'm going to be watching with a keen eye to see exactly what he does and how he plays this and pushing out across the map now. Looks like he's going to be able to pick up at least a couple of archers here for his for all of his good fortune. Couple of spears on the back, going to be no match at all for these knights mixed with scouts and getting a great early trade like this. This feels great when this happens to me. You know, I absolutely love it.
Picking off
it is a
all
really
those
nice
archers,
early pickup.
Picking off all those archers at the beginning is just massive value. It's still even crossbow numbers between Dogao and Vilas, but well, now it looks like all those crossbows for Dogao are heading towards Max's base, and there's a lot of surface to pressure here on the right side at Max's base.
Yeah, what's the best way for him to move into this? Because there's that front goal that he's got to be dealing with, but obviously that watchtower is going to be able to provide a little bit of cover fire there for the villagers, but realistically, he doesn't really have a more accessible gold or a safer gold for him, so it creates this difficult spot, and my suspicion is that we're going to see, you know, more and more cavalry beginning to build in or come in for the heresy team, and as a result, it's going to just continue to wind up a little bit of a hole in that wall where the cavalry have just come through, but they've managed the villagers to close up that gap. Just a couple of wall segments have gone through, but now the reinforcements are here. Crossbows on crossbows beginning to trade it out. Plenty of knights getting in amongst the mix. There's a lot of yellow knights there as they manage now to connect with the crossbows. Crossbows having to work their way back, but crossbows doing a great job here, just managing to survive, working their way towards that hill. The knights fighting it out. It looks pretty close, but I think those crossbow numbers for Suomi are going to be able to hold it tight. On top of that, we've got plenty of knights here taking the high ground and working their way around. A wonderful job of microing and really just leveraging the advantage that the hills got there and just preventing the opponent from walking up to it. Dogao in a difficult spot here. Behind this, we do actually see that Miguel is dropping down a town center. So that question, that second town center, it is up. But keep in mind, Veles is dropping down a third town center. So now is the time to go. I asked that question, when is boom time? And now it definitely seems like boom time is. The first fight has happened. And Suomi definitely feel comfortable dropping down those extra town centers because I tell you what, 3's more than 2. And that's a lot more town centers than their opponents. But we've got plenty of cavalry raids on the backline. How are you feeling about this game so far?
It's hard to say because when I first looked at that fight, I kind of felt like this is actually going to be better for Dogao. He's got Thumbring on his crossbows, he has +2 defense, and he even had ballistics when his opponent didn't. But that's the power of Britons. You have that extra range on those crossbowmen, so it's easier to micro them for Vilas. Plus, he also trains crossbows faster, so he can easily afford to have very good crossbow numbers with 2 ranges, whereas for Dogao, he has to be on 3. And as you said, now it's going to be boom time. 3 town centers for Vilas here. Also, pretty easy to afford with Britons because they get the discount on their town centers. And as things stand, the only thing that's a little concerning for Suomi is that Max is only at 47 villagers, by far the lowest in the game.
Yeah, my concern was that he was under quite a lot of pressure there. Obviously, he lost a few amount of villagers, as well as that gold being idle at the start for probably close to 30 to 40 seconds as well. So that's really going to affect his production, and that's going to continue to snowball. And now we see that snowball beginning to build because the push is beginning. They just seem to be hitting Max, really hitting him quite hard. That second town center is out of the walls. Let's see exactly how they react to it. It appears that Miguel wants to just go through to the base, but he's decided to change his mind. Looks like they've given up. They think they may have caught themselves in a bit of a bad spot here. They've said, you know what? Don't worry. We were going to fight you, but we're not going to do it anymore. You just you go your way, we'll go ours, and we'll call it a day. And it looks like they've managed to go their separate ways without too much of a fight. But we just see, look at the range on those British crossbows, just absolutely insane.
It is, and it's just gonna get worse and worse because in Imperial Age they also get +1 range, so now they have 8, they will have 10, as opposed to other Imperial Age Arbalests that will have 8, so that's the advantage you're getting here with Britons. In exchange, you don't have Thumbring, so your rate of fire is slower than those green crossbows. As long as you can keep the distance, the Briton crossbows are amazing, but once those knights close in, suddenly these green crossbows will be much better.
Yeah, I definitely think when you look at the way that Dogao was able to move and micro and bring his units in like this, even though Britons have got that longer range, I definitely would much rather have Thumbring because take a look right now exactly how Miguel is just getting in on top of Velez. I'm a little bit concerned right here. I think this crossbow mass is very, very concerning for the Suomi team. How are you feeling about it, Lidakor?
It definitely is the case. And what's more concerning for the Finns is that there is no reinforcements coming here for Vilas. I don't see a single red unit marching across the map. And now, Max is going to be under a lot of pressure. He already has a lot of gold miners idled. He's got 3 on gold only. So making knights is just a dream for him. On the other hand, Vilas is getting ready to go into Imperial. So I think that this is intentional from Suomi. They just want to make sure that, okay, let's get Max double teamed. He does have town centers to keep this at bay for now. And just let us have Vilas in Imperial, get the Arbalests, get some siege, and then steamroll the eco of Miguel.
Yeah, well, look, I definitely think that when it comes to the way Velez is playing, if there was a way I would channel, a player, it would definitely be Velez because I love letting my teammate just die and then I do all the booming over on my side. And so obviously he's clicked up to Imp. He'll be up into Imp in less than 3 minutes now. Over on the opponent side, we see Dogao is also going to Imperial. Once it gets to the Imperial Age, though, I'm curious, Lidakor, who's got the advantage? Is it the British? Is it the Chinese?
It's very hard to say. Once again, the Chinese will have Thumbring, and the firepower's advantage is on the side of Dogao. But those Briton crossbows or arbalests at that time will just outrange the opponent so hard. So I think it depends on how much cavalry you have in a certain battle. Because if you have a lot of cavalry, they will be able to just dive in, and then rate of fire is more important than range. If you don't have a huge amount of support cavalry, then probably Briton crossbows with the extra range is better. What I love about Miguel's play is that he's placing additional town centers all around his base. Even if he doesn't produce villagers from these can slow down an Arbalest push in Imperial. We have seen that before, that this is more about just protecting your villagers and sort of securing the perimeter.
They kind of work as pseudo castles in a way. Obviously nowhere near as strong as a castle, but yeah, you mentioned they slow down those Arbalest push, so that's definitely what I'm going to be looking forward to. And he's not long until both players will be up, less than a minute until that happens. Now, my next question might seem like a little bit of a noob question because I'm really not sure what the meta is. Longbowmen. Are we going to be seeing them this game?
Very unlikely because you're gonna need castles for that. On paper, longbows are better than Arbalest. It's a matter of production bottleneck, so if the game is very, very long, it's more than possible, and Britons would love to have longbows. It's just a matter of it takes multiple castles, like 5, 6 castles, to be able to produce longbowmen at an acceptable rate. Whereas here you can just flood Arbalest, so it's much easier to just sustain Arbalest production. But obviously, when you have all the resources in the world in an ideal situation, then longbows are better than Arbalests.
Right, it makes perfect sense. And now we see both players getting up to the Imperial Age within a second of each other. Wonderful to see how on par these two players are with each other. But now you just see the huge range out from those British crossbows, doing an absolute amazing job of just forcing back the opponents. We see that cute little micro happening right there from Miguel. Just splitting up his forces so that he is able to dodge those shots coming in. But now some more pressure coming down onto Max as well. He's having a tough time this game. All of his gold is constantly being pressured. He's not having a good day. But at this point in time, we can see that forces are relatively balanced. We've got 92 pop versus 86 pop at the moment. And it looks like a little bit of a fight, a little bit of a 2-on-1 at this point. Never a good spot to be in. Picking up a couple of, a little bit of free knights. Tell you what, if you offered me some free knights, I'd take them any day of the week, Lidicor.
Oh boy, that's a castle drop here for the Gao. This is the main problem when you just hit Imperial Age with a bunch of Arbalest. You kind of bump into buildings and you don't know what to do with them. But that's where, the Franks can come in handy for the defender. They have cheaper castles, and that castle's gonna be close, but it probably goes up. That's going to prevent those ARPs from running in. And on the other side, the castle for the Gao also goes up.
Yeah, so now the castles are beginning to drop, and yeah, you can just see the amount. I'm just so impressed with castles in this game. They are really such a force to be reckoned with. As soon as that castle goes down, that's it. Everybody head home. Everybody, we'll collect up our thoughts in the morning. We'll deal with it then, because it's just absolute insanity how strong they are. Now we've got a little bit of a counter push. Blue Knights beginning to head into the base of Max. Max going to have a bit of a difficult time. Look at all those villagers down towards the south of the base. Oh my lord, Miguel is going to be picking up villagers left, right, and center here. I'm curious to watch the villager count. We see it's on 181 at the moment, but it is dropping very, very quickly down to 178 now. 18 idols at the moment, but that's going to keep dropping down as all those idols down to 172 villagers at the moment. And this is not a good time to be a yellow player, that is for sure. I'm feeling sorry for Viper, and I'm feeling sorry right now for Suomi, because they are having a tough time, but at the same time, they're putting out pressure on the north side of the map.
Yeah, it looks like the Brazilians were a little bit more determined when it comes to getting into the opponent's base. It was a good decision. Your cavalry player can't fight the archer player, so might as well just dive in and kill the eco. And it looks like the Brazilians did that a little faster. Max is down to 46 villagers here, forced to mass migrate, lost his entire food eco. And behind this one, there is Imperial Age coming in for Miguel. I think...
And a castle going up. Look at that perfect timing on the castle. Right in the economy as well. Just going to make him feel absolutely safe.
Yeah, like, Miguel did take a beating. He lost like 20-something vills here. But it's nowhere close to the damage that Max has suffered from. And when Imperial Age comes in for Miguel, he is going to be able to get Cavalier and +4 defense and just probably steamroll Villes here. This Suomi army isn't able to accomplish much because there's castles all over the place for Miguel. 2 wolves also chasing an Arbalest here across the map.
Oh my lord, it's definitely a bit of a tough spot. I feel like at the moment, Heresy are probably a little bit more in an advantageous spot. I feel like they've definitely identified a win condition and they've got it. The primary concern for me at the moment is just that lack of economy for Suomi, especially the Max. He's been hit hard this game, really, really hard, relentlessly hard this game. Now we've got another castle getting dropped down here by the French player, or Frank player rather, managing to get that castle up on top of the hill, looking pretty damn nice. And by the same token, it looks like our opponents are just going to have to, or the yellow and red player, just going to have to move away from that castle. And now the fight begins out. More Arbalists going at it, taking their shots. They're almost fighting over the range. I like how the shots are sort of fighting over the little hill. Both of them seem to be on probably on equal footing. It's just, neither of them wants to move on top of the hill.
Now, here's the funny thing here. Miguel is up to Imperial, and he's definitely doing some raiding damage. But he only has 17 knights, which gives some time for Suomi, and the story of the Suomi team for this tournament in many cases was that Max just died, got steamrolled whenever, and then he just managed to miraculously recover and come back. He's actually close to clicking up to Imperial. Now that his teammate is in Imperial, he can send him resources. And if this raid comes in useful from Max, then it's very possible that Dogao will also suffer a big loss, and that buys time for Suomi to recover.
Yeah, I guess my main concern is you see that town center going up now in the back of the base for Suomi. The Max is dropping that town center down, and he's looking to migrate his economy over there. It's just such a big amount of villages that he's lost, though, and going to be able to try and overcome that. It's going to be tough. It's going to take him, he's going to need a lot of resources. I'll say that much. But now it looks like the Cavaliers are in. They're going to be looking to connect with the Arbs, having an absolute field day here, finding them and surrounding them in the corner here, up against the trees, and just, sending them home, sending them the way that they like. And I definitely suspect that, this game is heading more and more towards a victory for Heresy. I feel like at this point, they're definitely on par, on course to win this game. Even though there's units in the base, I just feel like the economic difference here is significant. Obviously, the militaries are still quite close, with Suomi just sort of holding one up on them. But I remember early in the game, I asked you, who did you think was going to win? You didn't give me an answer, but as soon as that villager went down, I knew it was going to be going the way of Heresy. So I'm looking forward to seeing them close this one out. I don't know if are you allowed to have bias casters in Age of Empires 2? Is that allowed, Liticor?
Not really. This Paladin is coming in for Miguel here. And this is the problem of Suomi here. They will need to buy themselves a lot of time. They definitely did that by hitting Dogao. Dogao is down to 86 vills. The main concern they're facing is they're up against a lot of Paladins. But Max, his eco is not great. But he's on the way to Imperial. Oh, Miguel. He's going all the way across the map to make a town center inside the base of Max. Because Max is... It's a lot of gold, man. And
it's a lot of gold, but it's a lot of BM as well, and I got mad respect for that. That is that is some funny stuff, man. That is that is a pro move.
Especially if the Arbs intercept the villagers running across the map here.
Oh.
And
that is absolute top-notch stuff. And now we got a bit of a fight breaking out. The Arbs getting cornered on the top of the hill, but I tell you what, there's no better place that you'd rather be right now. What are the Knights doing? Looks like the Knights are just sort of deciding whether they want to get hit or whether they want to hit back themselves. They're patrolling back and forth over and over. What is this micro technique? Are you able to determine exactly what's going on here?
They can't fight this. They don't have the defense upgrades, so the best thing they can do is jump around and be an arrow sponge, make it as much possible for Viles's Arbs to stay alive. And now that the Paladins are coming in, you gotta trade it off. This is where the lack of firepower for Britain Arbs comes in problematic. It's gonna be a massive cleanup, and now Viles is down to 40-something Arbs, whereas his opponent's at 80. The only good news for Suomi is that they have multiple defensive castles in the middle, which could buy themselves time, but that's the only thing that they could hope for.
It's definitely one of the few things that they could hope for. I mean, their opponent is placing town centers in their base. It's never something that you want. The last thing you want is when you've got a base is to have your opponent place a town center in the middle of it. Not only is it a tactical advantage, it's also incredibly bad-mannered. So now we do see that town center. It looks like it's going to go up. Town center under construction. I'm looking forward to it. But this Heresy team is definitely looking to close this one out, trying their best defending this castle. Have we got any villagers repairing up that castle yet, Liticor?
A couple.
Just a couple.
That is an uphill castle with 8 villagers, so it's slowly gonna go down, but it's going to take quite a lot of time for Viles and Max to finish that. And behind this one, it looks like Viles didn't notice that he's losing his entire eco, which probably hurts an awful lot here right now. Like,
yeah,
they weren't in a good spot. Losing 20-something villagers that easily is something that they might not be able to make up for.
And there's the good game getting called. Heresy, victorious. Look, I don't want to say that I called it, Liticor, but I called it. That was an incredibly good game. I've not seen that technique before, where they look to sponge as much damage as they can from the Arbalest. That was very cool.
Yeah, the deciding factor here was absolutely just the cavalry of Miguel running straight into the base of Max. They were a lot more confident running into the opponent's base, and Max also felt a little bit more unprepared than Miguel was. Miguel had like multiple defensive castles around, so it was much harder for the Finns to do damage, and I think that drop is clearly shown on the timeline.
Yeah, that was very, very impressive, and I got to agree with you 100%. When the moment he struck his base, and then we saw the castles going up on the defense, there was a big castle that just sat in the middle of his base, and it just repelled the entire attack. And at that point, I just knew, you know what? That's it. It's over. It's it's such a difficult thing for you to lose pretty much your entire economy, and then try and go to your opponent's base, try and equalize there, and then just be denied so easily. It's infuriating, it's frustrating, but at the end of the day, it's Age of Empires.
Exactly. And with that, now we can start speculating about the upcoming civilizations for the games. Heresy takes game number 1 here, so we're going to one of the home maps of Suomi, which can be Riverbelt, Forest Pond, or Atacama. They have two very open maps, although obviously Atacama is super open, Riverbelt is aggressive but less open, and they have a very, very slow paced map, Forest Pond, so they have that diversity coming in. If it was for you, you saw how this game went out. How do you feel? Should they go for a slower paced map like Forest Pond or something that's very aggressive like Atacama?
I think it really depends on their playstyle. I think it's probably best if they go for something aggressive and really try and seal out the game early. Often I find in Age of Empires 2, it can be a little bit similar in Age of Empires 3, but not so much. But the player that's more aggressive typically is going to be idling their opponent and just forcing them off resources a lot more easily. And as a result, snowballing something. In Age of Empires 3, which is where I'm from, you've got a lot more resources packed in close around your town center. Your town center's got a much larger radius, so it's it's very easy to punish your opponent if they try and get under that town center. But in Age of Empires 2, very easily you can shut down those resources. So I like an aggressive strategy on an open map, and I think that's definitely why I favored Heresy in the last game over Suomi. So we'll see how Suomi play it out. What about you? What are your thoughts?
Oh, it's hard to say. I personally think that maybe um Riverbelt is this map I would pick myself if I would have to just pick one of these three. Because Forest Pond could be a very, very slow paced game, but you might want to keep that for later in case you end up losing something like Atacama or so, or Cape of Storms. So having a slower paced map later on can actually benefit you when you want to start slowing things down, or potentially even these maps, like especially Riverbed and Atacama, are very aggressive. As attrition starts kicking in for the players, you might prefer to have a slower paced map to play instead of a very aggressive one, which can snowball really fast.
Right. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So you mentioned that in between games, because obviously these are live, there's going to be a little bit more downtime. They're going to be sort of talking strategy in the downtime, determining what map they want to play, what games or what civs they want to play. Do you have any idea on what civilizations they might be going for? Anything that you suspect?
Well, I already see lobbies, so I would be biased, but I would say Riverbelt for Heresy. Bulgarian is a very popular civ pick there for the cavalry, or Khmer. That's probably the top two civs by far. For archers, you can think about many things like Saracens, maybe Malay, maybe Incas. Koreans, Bulgarians is the traditional pick there. Other side, hard to say. They don't have clear-cut civilizations for this one, but we got our answer. So let's jump straight into the next game. Heresy on the left side with Miguel playing Bulgarians in blue and Saracens for Dogao in green. Whereas on the other side, it's going to be Vietnamese for Viles in red and Turks for Max in yellow. One of
Wow,
the
bringing out the Turks early.
one of the maps where Turks could actually be useful. One of the things that Turks give you is that they have extra pierce armor on their cavalry, which means that they're much better, well, extra pierce armor than scouts and their light cavalry. So one of the things that could happen is having quite a lot of scouts here, and that's going to be very helpful against the archers of the opponent. Plus, you also get the light cavalry upgrade for free, so it's not like you're going to have a bunch of leftover scouts in from feudal. You get the upgrade immediately when you hit Castle Age, so that's a nice power spike as well from leftover scouts.
Yeah, that's definitely a great point. In addition to that, obviously getting rid of the Turks means that you don't have it for later. so you can save those stronger civs once it gets later into the pool or into the draft. Into the series is probably the better way to say it. So we've got down here on the south side of the map, the scouts beginning to open up, and a single spear coming out with them, and Town Center just opening fire onto those scouts, copying a little bit of damage, but the wall does slowly but steadily get up. And now on the north side, and take a look how close these two bases are to each other. We've got Archer v Archer up here to the north of the map, and they are but barely a screen away from each other. So it is going to be all action and all eyes up there towards the north of the map. How do you expect this game to unfold?
It's extremely hard to say, especially because this is very much an off-meta map as Max loses a villager here at the start. I kind of feel like it depends on how much you can use your Castle Age power spike if you can go up to Castle Age. Because usually feudal ages are relatively even. Well, obviously, if someone carves out a big lead by killing a couple of villagers, then everything falls apart for the team that lost the villagers. But I think the key decision point here is when you go up to Castle Age. If you click up too early, you will just get overrun by feudal age units. If you click up too late, you will face much stronger units.
Yeah, that's a massive point. I guess one of the things to note as well with this map is just obviously you spawn a lot closer to your enemy than you did on, say, Arabia. And as a result, it's almost like 2 1 versus 1s. Down the bottom, we've got the cavalry 1v1. On the north side of the map, we've got the archer 1v1. And that's the way that it looks to be evolving at the moment or unfolding. We can see that both players are somewhat scouting each other out with those scouts on the back line. We've got, Miguel, who earlier in the game was taking out Max's villager, and then Max returned the favor, but it looks like now Max beginning to move towards that north side, looking to potentially hook up with their allies as more forces begin to hit towards the north side of the map. We've got the scouts, which are going to begin hitting the opponent's archers, but clearing them up, and we've got an awful lot of chaos just happening right now. No spears in the mix at this stage. Just
nope.
a few scouts wailing away at each other. And it looks like we've got Dogau's one remaining scout that does go down. I think that might have been his starting scout.
Yeah, this is where the Turkish scouts can come into play. This is 4 pierce armor on them. For reference, that means that an archer arrow does 1 damage per hit. And they don't even have bloodlines, so these are pretty much bulletproof scouts over here. Obviously, Miguel's scouts are comparable. They do have the attack upgrade as well, but they don't have that extra pierce armor for Turks. So, what Bulgarians
it
have
makes
to...
a lot of sense.
Yeah. What Bulgarians have to play for here is the early blacksmith upgrades, because they have a discount on them. So, makes sense to go for those very early and sort of get those little power spikes. He does have bloodlines in, and this would be a perfect time to fight before bloodlines comes in for the Max.
Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult spot, though. Obviously, that town center sitting right there. You can't really push much further than that. And the way that he's sort of placed his architecture really prevents the opponent from sort of coming around the outside and forces them underneath that town center. So, unfortunately, they're unable to really do much and sort of hit that timing. But now they continue to move towards the south of the map, looking towards Miguel's base and hoping to find an opening. Let's see exactly how they do as they continue walking down. They spot a villager, force the villager, who was building, I believe, a house on the front line, and is now going to be heading back towards that town center. And now we begin to see age ups occurring. We've got Veles from the Vietnamese aging up over on Suomi, and then over on Heresy's team, we've got Dagao on the Saracens, who's going up for age 3 as well, or rather, castle age. We've also got a dock going down now.
Yeah, multiple docks even. This is where it gets interesting. Suomi did this in the quarterfinals they played, and I love that strategy. Max started to make docks all around the map. First of all, currently he's the only one with a dock, so he has an untouched fishing eco here. Very nice and consistent food income. But most of the gold on this map, after you deplete your starting golds, is here in the corners on the outside.
That's a lot of gold.
That's a lot of gold, but you're gonna have to transport villagers out there for that. So, what Max is playing for here is potentially preventing the opponent from transporting anything out there, and just pretty much starving them out of gold in the long run.
It's an interesting strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it pays off for him. But in all seriousness, though, I love the fact that he's getting out on water a lot earlier than his opponents. Obviously, he's got that second dock going up, and now we've got a bit of a fight unraveling in the middle of the map. We've got Miguel, who's beginning to hit away at the scouts of Max, chasing him away, forcing him back to run back to his base. He's got him in a nice, cute little formation here. Not really going to be able to do too much, unfortunately. Obviously, there's no snare in Age of Empires 2, so it means that he's able to run away relatively safely back to the walls of his ally, who has now reached the 3rd age and going to begin grabbing in all those all-important upgrades straight away, leaving the gate open, just like the song says. What is it? I'm going to leave the door open. I'm going to leave the gate open. But letting his ally in, not letting the opponents in, and it looks like they're going to have to walk away. We've now got some techs coming in, crossbows coming in for both Suomi and Heresy. So they will both be getting crossbows coming in for each of their archer players. Do you think anyone's at a particular advantage at this point, Lidical?
I think this in the long run probably favors Max and Vilas, because the Vietnamese are a much better archer civilization than Saracens are in the long run. They have extra HP on their archers, their economy is slightly more efficient as well. And the longer the game goes, the higher the chance that Max is going to reach Castle Age and he's gonna hit Light Cav. On the other hand, though, Max hasn't clicked up yet. Okay, now he's gonna go up. He had to buy a bit of a food, he was floating a huge amount of gold. Massive market usage, and he should be on his way as well. And that's where his power spike will come in from the free light cavalry upgrade. On the other side, Miguel has a considerable amount of light cavs himself.
Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult spot here because they're pushing in. Obviously, crossbow tech is out for the Vietnamese player. Vietnamese crossbows are notoriously strong, but now we see the fight beginning to move down towards the base of Max as well. More crossbows going to be coming in towards the north of the map and preventing those villagers from gathering on the wood line. And take a look at this. Just when you thought that Max was the only one who could get chased around, it seems like Miguel is going to be chasing him again. And now we've got some more docks going down here over on the western front. It looks like Max not only is not only the one dropping the docks, we've also got Miguel that was dropping down a dock here as well. But it has ceased construction, 60% of the way constructed, so another 40% before it's ready to go. But that's not going to be good enough.
Yeah, exactly. The villager got picked off by the villager and the fire galley here. And you see that Max is going all the way around. He's looking for docks over here as there's the big chase light cav upgrade coming in for Miguel as well. That's what Max is waiting for too. Whereas on the other side here, we do have the Saracen crossbows being used to perfection. They have a building attack bonus, so they're just eating that archer range from a distance like really fast.
Yeah, that's something I love to see. The Saracens in particular are just so good at doing this, aren't they? You know, they just sit back and really do a lot of damage. But the scouts continuing to chase around the scouts of their opponent. And more, and as you mentioned, Max is just searching out for those docks, but unable to find anything out there. Over on the north side, over on the east side, there's absolutely nothing out there. Now we may have a little bit of a fight unraveling, but just to... You know, there's more and more chasing. I feel like you need that Benny Hill theme right there with the way those scouts are going. But now we've got the crossbow on crossbow action beginning. No nights out yet for many of these players, or rather, I should say, not many nights out for either of these players at this point. But plenty of scouts coming out. We see that they begin to converge on this tree, this lump of trees towards the north of the map. And once again, it looks like Max is just going to be doing a run around and just keeping his opponent busy. Miguel having a tough time. Now it looks like some scouts maybe heading in towards the base, just opening up the hole a little bit, and now going to be able to head through the front door. Max has found his opening, rather Miguel has found his opening. He's going to be chasing in his opponent. He's got a couple knights in there as well. The door does get closed down, so he is going to be able to separate the forces, but he's going to have a bit of a difficult time because Dogao is stuck outside and he's trying to find his way in. He does knock down that archery range. He says, "Let me in!" But unfortunately, it's too late. All the cavalry of his ally has gone the way of the dodo, has fallen down, and you see their bodies slowly sinking into the farms of his enemy.
Yeah, that was an intentional gate opening, I believe, from Suomi, because it very much felt like they just want to let them in, trap them inside, and then finish them off with the crossbows. They now have 5 pierce armor on those Turkish light calves, and that's why those could be very, very devastating. Behind this one, Miguel really wants to make a run for that island, but Max, he's just busy. He is just busy here, trying to make sure that that does not happen, and it looks like Miguel might not even have the chance. Max is like 5 docks all around the map here, denying that.
He's doing a great job. So even though, you know, you've got the main battle that's going on here, but at the same time, this is an important battle that is still happening behind the scenes, and it's something to not forget about because, you know, when the gold does run out, Max is going to be the guy who is controlling which boats are allowed in and which boats are not. More villagers now getting forced to leave that transport ship, and now it looks like a bit of a cleanup's happening over here on the main action or the main battle. Knights just doing their best, but it looks to be relatively even at this point, Lidicore. Do you think that either team is in a particularly advantageous position?
I think Suomi has a pretty considerable lead for small things like this one, for example, just two knights coming in, and this is the time Miguel noticed it as well, losing quite a lot of vills. They have a 12 villagers lead, but what's bigger is that both of them are on two town centers. You got Max with a decent fishing eco, and he's also the one that technically controls the water, although Miguel is able to make a run for it, and he's gonna have a town center on the outside.
Yeah, he's finally managed to get a crossover onto the other island, and obviously plenty of gold over there for him, plenty of stone over there for him as well. But yeah, undoubtedly going to be dropping down a couple town centers. But it's interesting to note that yes, both players, or there are multiple players now looking to boom, looking to get that eco going. Dogao, the only one who's yet to get that second town center up, and now using that Saracen bonus to its effectiveness, taking down a second archery range and having a great time here. So now towards the south of the map, though, Max is looking in a pretty decent position here. Obviously, his economy is beginning to boom. He's got plenty of fishing boats out on the map, collecting in that food for him, and there's plenty of fish out there, to be honest. So he's not going to be having a hard time at all. I suspect he's probably going to be migrating over. Actually, it looks like he may have already begun migrating over there towards the south of the map, but Dugao doing the same thing towards the north. I suspect Valise is going to be doing the same thing towards the east. All of the players moving out towards those islands. You know, typically when I've watched games unfold on this map, we've seen not a whole lot of action towards the mid or towards the late game. So it's one of the few games that actually looks to be continuing on. And speaking of continuing on, it looks like we've got Knights now connecting with the crossbows. Dugao are going to be having a bit of a difficult time because those Knights are not buildings. There's no extra bonus against those Knights, and having a very difficult time. It looks like he's going to get completely cleaned up. Valese and the Max doing a great job looking to clean this one up. Plenty of forces coming in here from Valese. Look at the reinforcements behind this. They have just had an absolute cleanup. Take a look at the military population difference. We've got 68 against 19 at this point.
And
Good game.
yeah, that's it. Heresy says GG. They know that army gone is basically the end of the story, and if we also add the fact that Dogao tried to redock here, but well, still it is probably Max controlling the waters, but more importantly, it is 212 population against 146. Suomi already had an eco lead, but they just disintegrated that army, and that was a beautiful surround as well. Max waited patiently, came in with the cav, and one-on-one, the Vietnamese archers are way better than the Saracen ones. The Saracens are threatening against buildings, and they were trying to take down the TC, but once the Vietnamese crossbows come in good numbers, they will just beat them by better quality. So Suomi evens things out over here, strikes back real quickly, and now we are at an even scoreline.
Yeah, heading into game number 3. That was an incredible game. I love the way that, honestly, for me, the MVP in that game was Max. Absolutely incredible play. You know, he was getting chased around by Miguel, or rather was chasing around Miguel for the majority of that game. He did a great job of just controlling the water and forcing his opponent to use unnecessary APM on getting over onto that island. And really, I mean, he just, from the get-go, he had boats out there on the water. It's one of those things that you don't often see a lot on this map. I think I was touching on it a little bit earlier. I've witnessed this map played a couple of times, and very rarely have I seen people actually expand out towards those islands before the game gets called. So the game was, or there were villagers that were heading out there, but yeah, look at that. There was a little bit of a battle that was potentially going to be happening up here on the North Island. Villagers on villager action potentially. So it would have been it would have been pretty crazy.
Yeah, in the end, as I said, in the long run, I probably prefer Vietnamese and Turks as opposed to Bulgarians and the Saracens. Bulgarians and Saracens can snowball games really fast, and they just have a massive power spike. With the Bulgarians having the early blacksmith upgrades, both in early feudal and early castle age. But after that, once the opponent also gets those upgrades, it's no longer something that matters that much. But the Vietnamese have that very persistent bonus of extra HP on their archers, and this little drop at the end just shows that the entire army here got surrounded and annihilated.
Yeah, it's really impressive, isn't it? Just yeah, when that surround happened, it was just such a telling moment But yeah, I felt like up until that point, it was very, very close. So
So
well played by
Suomi
both
is
teams.
back on track, as we're gonna have to wait until they go for the third game. Now the question is, we have seen a fast-paced map here. Heresy has one really fast-paced map, and that's Cape of Storms. That's even more fast-paced than River Belt is. So
Mm.
you could think about going for that if you're confident in winning these maps. But I kind of feel like Suomi felt a little bit more convincing on this one. Over
They
like,
did feel very convincing, didn't they?
yeah.
They were looking in their element 100%.
So I kind of feel like going for an open map right now for Heresy may not be the best of all options. I can see their Golden Pit or Kawasan working. Maybe Kawasan is better because that's a map that Suomi doesn't really play frequently. They're not bad on it, but that's a map that Heresy likes to play and plays quite often. For Suomi, that's sort of the not liking it, but not disliking it either style.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just looking at the maps at the moment. I'm just thinking, yeah, I love Golden Pit. It's a great map. I don't know if it's going to be appropriate. As you mentioned, I think you definitely want to slow down the tempo that Suomi had after that last game. They were obviously looking on absolute fire. So yeah, very careful. I would suspect in Kawasan, or I would suspect that Kawasan is going to be the map that they go for here. I'd be surprised if we see anything other than that. But yeah, looking forward to it. Cape of Storms is definitely one of my favorite maps. I do love the way that on Cape of Storms, the way that the players spawn into the map, and you do really have that true pocket position, despite it being a 2v2 map. And we're so used to seeing these sort of one versus one, like two one versus ones on a 2v2 map, if that makes sense. Kind of like in the last game where you had the two North players fighting it out, and then the two South players fighting it out. On Cape of Storms, you don't have that. You've got everybody fighting against each other. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that map. Hopefully, we get to see it today.
All right, we have a third game over here as we will jump into Cape of Storms. Looks like they are
Oh,
coming in with the aggressive map. The difference between Cape of Storms and Riverbelt here is that, as you mentioned, on Riverbelt, the players spawn pretty close to each other. So, in most cases, it is a bit of a two separate 1v1 style of a thing. Here on Cape of Storms, it's much more about the team coordination. So you always gotta keep your two armies together, otherwise you could easily lose those archer numbers and your army could just fall apart. And we will jump into the next game over here. Welcome to Cape of Storms, a unique map where you have one player much safer than the other one on a team in 2v2s. Mox as Mongols in yellow on the left, Kumans for Vilas in red, and we'll have Dogawa's Incas in blue and Miguela's green Magyars. And this is where we have to talk about the fact that Suomi had Huns available, but Mongols is just as good of a civilization here. They get a massive eco boost from the Hunt, and there is a lot of Hunt here to take. You could potentially even take your teammates' Hunt, and that's what Suomi is basing their strategy on.
tell us a bit more about that. Why are they going to be Why is he going to be taking his teammates Hunt?
Because that you're just gonna have a huge amount of food income from the hunt. Mongols do get a massive gathering bonus, so it makes more sense for Suomi to just have the scouts player take that as well, because he's the one that has a hunt related eco bonus. Plus, he's the one that's consuming a lot more food. Like him taking the teammates hunt eventually allows him to sustain scout production much easier than compared to having to place farms a little bit earlier. Whereas for the archer
Right.
player, food is not that essential at the beginning. So in Feudal Age, it's more about the consistent scout production plus the early upgrades.
Right, okay, that makes perfect sense. We can see just how defensive these players are being as well. Max and Veles just, really sitting back and waiting for their opponents at this point. We do see on the mini map the Miguel and Dogawa are beginning to sort of, find their footing, but looking pretty decent at this point in time. One of the things I'm looking forward to is just really seeing that big boom. I suspect we're going to have a pretty nice boom coming out from Miguel as well as from Veles. Obviously, these guys are in the pocket position, so it's going to mean that they're relatively safe from enemy harassment, enemy raids. So I'm expecting that we're going to see walls up towards the north, and then eventually a lot of town centers. Keep in mind, there is that water that they do have access to, so whether we see a couple of docks get thrown up and potentially some fishing boats, but now it looks like a bit of harassment, potential engagement going to begin here, but both players playing very defensively, despite having that triple range at the front right there, just to prevent any sort of harassment down towards that way. You know, both teams just sort of looking a little bit skittish, I'd say, just not wanting to really deal with each other. What do you think the thought process is behind this?
Yeah, at this point, obviously Suomi doesn't want to overextend because they just want to use the hunt. There's already Max with the hunt for himself, plus he's adding fishing eco, so he's more than happy to just use that Mongol eco bonus, get all the upgrades for his scouts before taking the fights. We already have the upgrades in for Miguel though, so at this point, it's more about just not taking an overly aggressive stance and just play safe. This is something that both teams have done in the previous game so far. Both of them are very, very passive and really evaluate if they should dive into a situation or not. So there are teams that are much more committed to a certain push. They are really careful, making sure that they don't lose their armies in a process or a fight that they didn't actually think over.
Yeah, you can just see how careful they are as well. Obviously, the defender's advantage coming in really important here as well for Suomi being on the left-hand side here. It's just so important that they really, when it comes to Heresy, looking at diving in here potentially to realize that they are going to be up against their opponent's infrastructure. They're going to be getting reinforced a lot sooner. And now we do see that they are beginning to push out away from the infrastructure and look out. They feel like they've got a little bit of confidence behind them and beginning to push out more and more as we see that Max and Valise are pushing even further now, taking scouts out. And I love the way that you just spot them dodging back and forth with their cavalry and just using them to soak up all those arrows. We spot one scout now going to be going down for Valise, and just this dance continues. I feel like Miguel at the moment has got slightly larger numbers than his opponent, the Max, but at this point now, both players or both teams still with that just ever so slight. Now it looks like the charge is coming forward. Miguel doing his best to try and connect. We see all those reinforcements coming in. A little bit of a split coming up here towards the north as both players now moving down towards this west side of the map. We've got archers that just try their best to be picking out more and more of these scouts, managing to get shots off, but doing their best to dodge them. Plenty of HP on the majority of these scouts right here. And now look at these scout numbers. We've got relatively even numbers, but Heresy are undoubtedly at a pretty decent advantage here. The scouts on scout action as they hammer away. Plenty of scouts going down, though, and it looks like both players are just going to sort of draw away from each other and say, well, we fought it out, we hit each other pretty hard, but we'll call that one even for now.
Yeah, for now, we already had 4 stables worth of production for Miguel, and this is why Magyars can be a dangerous civilization for this map. They have not only the free attack upgrade, so they don't have to get that, more importantly, they have a cheaper scouts, and that helps just sustain that production. And something that we didn't have the chance to talk about is that Dogao even sold his stone to go up to Castle Age here, and that's a massive power spike that we are gonna have for the Brazilians.
Yeah, well, considering just how much further ahead they are than their opponents in both military numbers, but tech is going to be the big one. And now you can see they're pushing in. At this point, Inca is going to be looking incredibly strong as they push in with these crossbows. And, you know, I think at this point, it's a difficult push to stop because the crossbows are just so much more ahead. We've still got another 60 seconds until Valise is up on the Cumans. It's going to take plenty of time. The military mass is larger. It's stronger. Is this GG?
It's hard to say. It is a tough situation right now for the Finns, especially because the crossbows are heading towards the cavalry player, which is the right thing to do. Just march up, because he currently has no defense against the crossbowmen. On the other side, though, we will have crossbows coming in for Vilas soon. The problem that he's going to be facing is that there is ballistics already in for his opponent. So I think this will be a cleanup. The question is, what can you do about the next wave, because that's already coming in.
Yeah, we can see those military units beginning to build now. Docks out here towards the south of the map. The Max again going for those docks. He loves to do it. But yeah, you're definitely right. We do see that second wave beginning to build. We've now got crossbows in for both players, but you did mention the ballistics are in as well for Dogao. So it's going to be a difficult time for Valise to try and deal with them, but now some villagers potentially going to be getting cleaned up by those scouts at the north side of the base. Scouts doing their best just to try and chase down those villagers, and a little bit of a tough time they're having.
Yeah, that's definitely not nice for Sumi. The thing that helps them quite a bit is that we have a very, very good fishing eco here for Max. So, yes, he took a beating and now they're definitely on the back foot. But if they manage to clean this one up, then the ecos are not that awfully far apart, to be honest. The bigger problem for them is now that Miguel is also going into Castle Age here, and I feel like those losses are just piling up so fast.
Yeah, and this harassment is just relentless. We see all over the place right now that Miguel and Dogao are just doing so much work when it comes to harassment. They're all over Valise's base right now. If you take a look, they're down towards the south, attacking this wall. Up a little bit further as well, they're pushing in amongst that, taking villagers off that wood line and just forcing them to idle, being absolute nuisances. Now heading up to the third age as well. We've got Miguel going up, so he's going to be having a tech advantage there. Already up for quite a significant amount of time as well. So there's going to be a nice little window there for him to be able to push in. And it's a difficult spot. I definitely feel like at this point, Suomi are in a hard spot. They're sort of stuck in the corner. More and more crossbows sneaking by at this point. How did they get through? Did they cut a hole in the wall somewhere?
Oh
They
yeah,
did
they did.
indeed cut a hole in the wall. So they're going to be making their way through as well. But we've got defensive towers going up, and it never feels good to be placing down these defensive towers. It's just resources that you don't want to invest, and you have to invest because they got through the wall. It's frustrating as all hell. What do you do in this situation?
Yeah, the tricky thing is that Dogao was just forcing those crossbows from Vilas to chase here. Like, they pretty much didn't give a chance for Suomi to just go for a counterattack. Because Dogao was like, okay, I'm going to take 28 crossbows, march to the right side, Vilas will be forced to chase, but Dogao had reinforcements coming in, whereas for Vilas, he had some idle time on his gold mine plus his lumberjacks, so he didn't have that much defense back at home. And now it looks like the scouts are getting cleaned up, but Heresy ends up winning
Yeah.
this one in the moment Suomi sees that
Yeah.
Miguel is up to Castlage, they call it. They know exactly it's over, especially with Magyars. Magyars get the attack upgrade immediately in so that would be fully upgraded knights in a matter of moments, and really, at this point, Max could click up, but I don't think they can survive 3.5 minutes, especially when you consider that these crossbows are killing these vills, when the crossbows here of Villas are dying. Heresy strikes back really quickly over here, and so far, this has been a very much back and forth series.
Yeah, it really has. I think I'm very impressed with this game and the way that Heresy played. It's just been, in every game that we've seen so far, the aggressor has been the victor. And here we just saw how aggressive Heresy were. The way that they pushed in, it was impressive stuff. So, very well played over to them. They were just absolutely all over Suomi. One of the things that I love whenever I'm playing Age of Empires is I love like this concept of like man fighting. It's where, I'm able to wall up my base, I'm relatively safe, and then I go and I attack my opponent on one front, and I'm not splitting them on multiple parts because I can do that, but I just absolutely hate it. There's nothing worse than when you've got those sirens going off in your headset. You're under attack here, under attack here, under attack there, under attack there. And that's exactly what it would have been like playing as Suomi in that last game. They were under attack everywhere. And I tell you what, it would have driven me crazy. And I'm not surprised that they called GG when they saw that Miguel was up to the third age as well.
Yeah, at that point, it was probably over. They took a lot of losses down to 95 vills as opposed to 114. It just snowballed out of control. Something that this map does very, very frequently. It's probably the most aggressive map of all. And Heresy was counting on this one really heavily because they picked Magyars as their first overall pick in the draft. So they needed this win. That's why they picked Magyars at the start. And Suomi didn't snipe that civilization from them. They decided to snipe Mayans, which puts Miguel and Dogao up by 2 game. We're going back to the home map of Suomi here.
Which map do you think it's going to be for them? They've got a couple that they can choose from.
I think
Atacama, Forest Pond.
this is where you have to pull the trigger on Forest Pond, I believe. I feel like you just lost an open map in a quite decisive manner. If you go for Atacama right now, you are playing a somewhat similar map, and you could potentially lose that one as well, the same way that you lost Cape of Storms, and then it would be 3-1. The other way to
Hmm.
think this over, though, is that, okay, we just lost the open map. It seems like we could have some problems on Atacama. We are going to use Atacama now because we don't want it to be the decider game if we get there. So that's the other thought process.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm looking forward to Forest Pond. I'm hoping that it's Forest Pond because it is an absolutely what is the word? It's a chaotic map. It is just you're never really safe on Forest Pond. It's one of those maps that it's just like remember before how I was talking about I love to have those games where I just wall up and then I focus on my opponent on one front. Well, not on Forest Pond. You just can't do it. There's just way too many fronts on that map. I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that we're going to see Forest Pond here.
Yeah, that is definitely a possibility if they want to play it slower. Forest Pond is a crazy map, and what really makes it interesting is that it's such an off-meta map, and you can do so many like amazing moves, even if they don't work out. But transport chip landings inside the opponent's base and stuff like that. There's a lot of fun stuff that can happen.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. Or when someone walks along the inside against the pond. Oh gosh, it gets crazy.
All right, it looks like we'll have a game in a moment, and it's going to be Forest Pond, so you have your lucky
Yeah.
day. Let's talk
Oh yeah.
civilizations here. Italians is a must pick, I believe, here. Anywhere else, it would kind of feel like it's a waste. So Italian is almost guaranteed. And then you have an option, because Italians will be an archer civ. You can do two things. You pick a cavalry civilization, like Persians, for example, or you go for a castle drop civilization, like Koreans. Whereas on the other side, Japanese makes some sense. Spanish is almost guaranteed. That's probably the only place where Spanish is reasonable.
Hmm.
But probably Spanish Byzantines might be the best combo here for Suomi.
All right. I'm curious to see exactly which way they go, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing some Spanish. Let's take a look and spot exactly what we've got.
We got
Indeed.
Spanish Byzantines and Koreans, Persians, so no Italians.
No Italians.
That's a bit of a shock to me.
Yeah, that is very curious. But yeah, Koreans, Persians. So you got the castle drop with the TC drop civ. It's unlikely that we'll see the TC dropped
Nope.
in the 2v2, but we'll see how we
Especially
go.
Empire Wars.
Yeah, could you imagine that? I tell you what, that'd be good fun.
That would
But
be crazy. I know a couple of players that might attempt that, but that's not what we're doing around here. So the weird thing with Italians is that I'm not really sure where else would you be able to use them. Italians is such an amazing civilization in late game in these closed and slower paced maps. They don't have a lot of mobility. In fact, they're really slow. But the Genoese crossbowman is the only range unit that actually has like a very massive anti-cavalry bonus. So pretty much Genoese crossbowmen destroy any cavalry from the opponent, and that's why they're just such a beloved civilization for these. And on other maps, getting to a large amount of Genoese crossbowmen is unlikely, because you need multiple castles for that. But on a map that can go long and it's slow paced, like Forest Pond, that's usually a very good civilization. So I'm a little bit puzzled by Harris's choice here, but maybe they will go for it on Kawasan or Atacama and just go for the fishing ship bonus of Italians instead.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking it's got to be. I don't think there's any other way they could really be doing it. Highly likely that they've sort of picked up Italians as for that pocket pick on Kawasan. Obviously it would make sense here on Forest Pond, but unfortunately, probably going to be having to wait until Kawasan before we get to see those lovely Italians. And now we get ourselves coming into the game. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the fourth game in the series between Suomi and Heresy, spawning in the west of the map. Playing the Byzantines, it's Veles. His ally spawning above him, it's Max, playing as the Spanish. Over to the east of the map, we've got Dagao, who's going to be playing on the Koreans. And his ally spawning down in the south of the map, it's Miguel on the Persians. We've got some docks beginning to open
Oh,
up
what is
already, and
this?
villages. Oh, just when
Miguel
you
is moving
thought
up. I think
doing
this wanted to be a tower because anything else would be so weird with free villagers. Free villagers is too much for a forward archer range. Oh, he just wants the stonewall. Okay, this is
oh
something that Heresy loves to do, and this is what basically would prevent the castle drop. And but those walls are really far out here. He should have no trouble finishing those, but this is a lot of walking distance for sure.
I feel
Double
like we're watching a
docks.
Black Forest game with Fat Slob right there when he got Vils walking that far out to wall.
It's going to be double docks for Villas and Miguel. The other two players are on a single dock. The tricky thing here is that, first of all, this lady just trapped herself, so she's gonna have to walk all the way around if she wants to get back to the base. Oh no! Okay.
What? How is that a hole? How is that a that is an impressive hole.
Okay. Now, Spanish is your castle drop civilization over here if you have any. As that's going to be an
Looks like it might be a
oh,
scout trade.
that's very nice from Villas. He killed the scout, but he keeps his own alive. Because currently what you need is information. You really gotta make sure that you're not getting surprised by a forward or something, so keeping your scout alive is really valuable.
Yeah, it's definitely the case, but I guess my concern is, are we going to see these stone walls actually manage to get up? There are still a couple villages out there. We saw some spears heading out that way as well. A bit of action out on the water as well. We've got fire ships already on the way, or fire galleys rather, doing their best to just sort of prevent the opponent out from expanding, but quite a bit of aggression already. Plenty of action this early, and lots of fire ships out. Look at this interestingly placed dock. You don't always see a dock placed down like this, do you, Lidicore?
Yeah, I think this is sort of how the meta evolved in this tournament, because the thing is that you have one tile of gap in between the water and the trees here that you can walk around, and if you delete your tile of wall here, you can move all the way to the middle, and this helps you reinforce battles in the middle, and also makes it easier to access the fish in the middle once you start fishing.
Yeah, it really makes sense about why you do it. It's great to see. Looks like that stone wall down towards the south is going to get up. So Miguel hoping that he's going to be able to sort of force a lot of the action towards that north side of the map, I would expect. It's great that he's invested all those resources up, and it feels relieving when you can get that stone wall up. But now we see Miguel really just focusing on that water. He's got the double dock up, pumping out heaps of those fire galleys, getting them out nice and early, and pushing into his opponent, who's got double docks up as well. Link's having a bit of a difficult time. At the moment, it's relatively even, though, when we look at the military population, when we compare it to the village accounts. Got double docks up for, I think, every single player at this point. So really everybody understanding the aim of the game, with the exception of Dagao. Dagao only having the single dock up at the moment, but really just trying to focus this down. Tell me a little bit about the meta, the way that this unfolds. So my understanding is that we're going to be watching these fire galleys fight it out until eventually a demo hits. And once that demo hits, that's when it's all going to matter. It's all about timing those demos to hit against the fire galleys. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. You want to hit at least 2 fire galleys with a single demo, otherwise it's not going to be cost efficient. One of the things to look at though is that while the water fight is even, Suomi does have a couple of fishing ships behind this one, sort of just fishing away in the middle of the pond with the battle surrounding them, but it gives them a nice little extra eco compared to the opponents, so they are actually getting some value out of the water. For the Brazilians, Miga and Dogao, they don't get any value for the pond right now. They're just investing into it, as Dogao even went as far as to lame that gold mine from the opponent.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Oh, it's the second
Oh
one
my
as well.
lord, he is going absolutely ham. Okay, you know, if I was playing with this guy, he would be getting flamed absolutely menacingly right now. That is some crazy lame. Does his opponent even know about it yet? Has Valise or Max cued into the fact that, yeah, they got no clue right now. I'm sure we'll see some angry chat messages the moment that they realize what's happened. But we actually do see some, oh no, it's happening. You want to place a town center there. You got another thing coming, my friend.
Yeah, that's not gonna work out for Max. Well, Max is not the angry type, but he's gonna be very disappointed. And this is just... The weird thing about this one is Dogao is one of the nicest guys in the AoE player scene, so it's not like he's just coming in here to annoy you with that. It's just, you know, it's business, my friend. We gotta win a tournament here.
Exactly. It's business. That's exactly it. You're 100% on the money there. The fights continue out on the water, though. Valise looking pretty decent, though. Bringing in plenty of action and pushing into the docks. There's 3 docks up now, but he's got to be careful. The closer he gets to those docks, the more likely it is that a demo is going to pop out, say good day to one of his fire galleys. Not something that he wants, but something that he does want is definitely those town centers. Plenty of town centers now going down for the Finnish team. I want to say Finnish.
Yeah, they are.
Wonderful. All right, I managed to get that one right. I remember seeing their flag a little bit earlier and thinking, I think that's Finland. So, yeah, 3 TCs now coming down for Max, and it looks like Velez is going to be dropping down his second one as well. Compare that over to the opponents, the Brazilians. We've got Degao, who's sitting on his second TC. He's popping up a castle, though, and Miguel, who's dropping down that second TC as well. So, a castle that's coming up. And now, that castle's going to be, or is that town center going to be in range of that castle?
Don't think so. Maybe with max upgrades it's possible, but it's doubtful. It doesn't really matter though, because Dogao has a hill here.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, that was pun intended. But I'm going to finish it now.
You're terrible. You're terrible, Lidical. All right, all right. Tell me about that castle up towards the north. What is the aim? What is the objective of this castle? Obviously, it secures the gold. It does actually hit the town center. So you and me both going to be a little bit surprised at the fact that it's hitting out that far.
Yeah, and the thing is that if Dogao wanted to, he could go for a siege workshop and just go for manganose and put this hill, he could take that down. But it's all about the war wagons now. And the really nice thing here for Dogao is that the war wagon build is usually a 1 TC build, and he's got 2 TCs behind this one, so it's sort of that passive-aggressive build where you apply some pressure, but you're gonna have a pretty decent boom behind this one as well.
Yeah, it's definitely looking pretty decent. I love it when these war wagons get out, but now we see the true counter to these war wagons. We've got Max coming out with plenty of these monks coming out and just doing what they do best, throwing out a few conversions. Looks like this monk may get this conversion off. It's going to be close. He does get it off before he dies. So now we've got more war wagons for Max than we do for the actual Korean player. So it's always concerning when that is the case. Plenty of action now. So doing his best, but it looks like this town center may be in a bit of strife here. Town center is getting repaired by a couple villagers on the outside, but my concern is that, you can only keep this town center getting repaired for so long. You're gonna be bleeding wood for the rest of your life, and the castle's not really losing anything as a result of it. So, do you just give it up? I feel like you might as well.
Yeah, you probably do, because I mean, you were gonna lose that gold mine nonetheless, but it's not like you can mine that gold right now anyways. He probably just wants to slow this down because the TC keeps those war wagons a little bit further away. You can jump into the town center with the monks, for example, so this slows down this push until he can potentially afford a castle, and that's probably what he wants, a castle over here.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a concern, but look at that. Now we've got more war wagons coming out down towards the west of the map. War wagons really just doing a little bit of scouting themselves. They are horse-drawn, obviously, but you would suspect that they are drawn by scouts at the way that they're moving. But plenty of these fire galleys now continuing to fight out amongst it, and the meta definitely seems to be very fire galley orientated. Really, I don't know. Are you satisfied with the meta, the way that it works on water? Obviously, it's a very delicate thing. Something I don't want to offend or concern too many AoE2 players about, but I do notice in a lot of the AoE2 games that I see that not only do villagers go down to spears like this, but fire galleys are definitely the dominant water vessel.
Yeah, early on they are, obviously, as we have a second castle coming in for Dogao. Behind this one though, Max, it's not like he's taking an awful lot of damage, and his resources are looking better and better for Imperial Age, so chances are he will make a castle here, and go for Imperial Age, go for Trebs and try to take that castle down. At this point, I'm kind of disappointed, honestly, that the teams are still investing into the water this heavily, because Suomi is getting some value out of this one, but not an awful lot, and the fish is about to run out. I don't think that such a resource income with the fish is something that justifies such an enormous investment into Navy.
Right, okay. No, makes perfect sense. I suspect that as this game goes longer, that as you identified, we're going to see Dogao increasingly in a better position, obviously, beginning to build up these war wagons. War wagons are seriously strong. You know, I watch a lot of streams, and the war wagons, I think they're definitely one of the underrated units. People don't realize exactly how good these things are, or definitely underestimate them. So I'm looking forward to watching this massive war wagons begin to build and hopefully take over the game. That's where my money's going on this game. So we'll have to see how it pans out. But continuing to see fights happening in the center here over this fish. You mentioned that there's not much fish left in this sea, but there are plenty of ships here. And obviously, not only are they fighting over the fish in the sea, fighting over the territory that's there, because obviously you gain control of that territory. You're going to have that backdoor into your opponent's base, and that's going to mean that there's a potential avenue for raiding, potential avenue for, you know, just another front that you get to choose when you fight. But plenty of war galleys going, or fire galleys now going out, getting out onto the map, and going to be taking down those fishing ships. Fishing ships having a difficult time. Looks like we've got a couple of big boys coming out right now. It looks like they go for a couple of explosions. Demo's doing pretty decent, getting some good connects right there. And definitely looks like Velez is pulling ahead against Miguel with regard to the water fight. But I feel like Miguel is always the one that's on the front foot when it comes to these water fights. But speaking of front foot, take a look on the minimap exactly how well Max is doing when it just comes to controlling his opponent. Obviously, Dogao is pushing in and trying to fend him off, but we can see towards the north, there's, what is that that's expanding up there? Is that a siege workshop that he's got building
That's
up
a
there?
market. He wants to set up trade, and that's going to be a problem right now for Suomi. They don't really have a safe corner. They have this one that's fine, and with Spanish, you're gonna have the trade bonus, so you want to have a lot of trade going on, especially on a map that could go very long. But securing this corner is gonna be a bit of a trouble. Max actually went for a very rare upgrade in Age of Empires, or at least competitive Age of Empires, Inquisition. This means that his monks are now converting faster, so that's his direct response to the war wagons. And the key thing here is that as much as Miguel is slowly winning the water, he's not even close to Imperial Age, whereas everybody else is an imp, and last time I checked, that's going to be a halberdier and siege push on the base of Miguel, and he's got absolutely zero land army, and he also lost his scout, so he doesn't even have an idea that this is coming.
Yeah, he is relatively close to clicking up. No, not really, actually. I was just looking at his resources. Doesn't even look like he's anywhere near really close to getting up to that Imperial Age. Obviously, that's the all-important one. And now we've got some war wagons coming in over from the right-hand side of the screen. We do spot that the monks, look at just how much work they're doing and just how easily they're able to get those conversions off. Converting so quickly. You mentioned that they've got that extra upgrade, allowing them to turn over their opponents, change their allegiance even faster. But look at this build, or this infrastructure that's beginning to build up now on the stone wall side. The rams are beginning to build. You mentioned the siege as well as the halbs are going to be piling into Miguel's base, and he's going to have a bit of a difficult time because he's not Imperial. He's not even going to Imperial. He's just sticking it out in the Castle Age, and that ain't pretty. Look at the range on these monks as well. They've just got so much range on conversions.
Yeah, we do have block printing for Max. He's got 12 range on this. That means that bombard cannons would not help Dogao here, because the bombard cannons could get converted. On the other hand, he's having a pretty decent time here taking down that castle, whereas Max is trying to position his second trap on the hill so he can fire down hills, but I feel like this castle won't stand for long here for Max. Although it looks like...
Yeah, it's going to be done very soon.
If he gets a couple of conversions on the war wagons, it could still work out fine. Other side though, that push is intensifying, and sure, Miguel has some stone walls, but those won't hold for long, and he's nowhere close to having any land army.
Yeah, it's a very difficult spot for him. He still doesn't have that age up in queue, so a really, really difficult spot for him. I feel like as long as this game goes on, as long as on the north front, Velez, or rather the Max, is able to hold on, and it does look like he's doing a relatively good job. Obviously, that castle looks like it's going to be going down. It does indeed go down, but you know, he's not having a particularly difficult time here, I would say. I think that it's only a matter of time until he's got... Does he have access, or is he going to have bombard cannons out soon?
I think he has chemistry. Yes, he has chemistry. Light cavalry diving in on the monks. This is great from Dogao, though. He's just taking all those monks with him. And now, suddenly this push starts to be very scary. It doesn't have a lot of beef in it and only a couple war wagons, but It's about just leveling the base, all the buildings being taken down. And I kind of feel like we're getting to a who dies faster contest over here.
It definitely seems like that, doesn't it? We've got, on one side, we've got Miguel, who's having a difficult time. And then on the other side, we've got Max, who's also having a difficult time. It did look like he was going to be able to hold, but now, obviously, that castle has fallen. The monks were taken out by the light cavalry, and it means that he's in a difficult spot because we've got that awesome combination. We've got trebuchets, we've got war wagons, and we've got mangonels in amongst the action, as well as those scouts. Look at those scouts just... You know, before any of those war wagons get converted over, the scout comes in, just does a nice little attack. And ladies and gentlemen, we got a problem on this south side because now it is a base race and it is a concerning one, to say the least, because now we got plenty of action. It looks like a castle being dropped down there towards the south as well for Miguel. So he is going to be doing his best to prepare, but I tell you what, a castle isn't going to be enough against 16 rams, because I tell you what, that guy's getting taken to Ram Ranch right now.
And do you know what Max doesn't have? Gold. He only has 10 on gold. Now he has run out of his starting gold mine, and this is why those lame gold mines start to matter so much. He's trying to clean up those walls with the rams, but now there is no gold for Max, so Max can just go for heavy cavalry and fight this one back. And I kind of feel like Max's base is getting overrun faster than Miguel's one.
Yeah, I think you might be right. These stone walls, you know, you mentioned that they weren't going to hold for a long time. They were going to get through eventually. But I feel like they held for long enough that we now see Dogao is really beginning to, you know, flatten the base, so to say, because, you know, on one hand, we've got Miguel, who is about to reach Imperial. Another 2 seconds, he's going to be there, hopefully going to be able to begin building up that army. We see that he's even trading, trying to get as much gold out as he can, probably for some upgrades, some all-important upgrades, but a decent spot for him. But now the Halberdiers, looks like, are going to be beginning moving out and trying their best to take on these war wagons.
That was a beautiful fight. We did mention that there is not a lot of beef here for Dogao, and Max was patient. He was waiting until he has the Halberdiers, he's got the upgrades, and now he can push all this one back. A couple of traps could go down. This is buying a lot of time for Vilas. On the other side, we will have Halberdiers for Miguel, but that's not really going to be sustainable because Byzantines can go for Catapracts and just eat them, or just go Arbalest, something that Vilas is already doing.
One of the things I just saw was the trebuchet just slowly shooting at the stone wall behind it. And, you know, that's exactly what you want to be doing with those stone walls. Distracting your opponent's siege from hitting your important infrastructure. So really great to see. Now some skirmishes coming out. Rams moving in. Going to be looking to take down some of these trebs. Let's see how they go. One hit coming out. It's pretty close. There goes. Was that a triple? That's almost a triple. Whoa, there it goes. That was a triple.
Yeah, it was a triple at the end as... Arbalests are now marching in, and I feel like Miguel's got no army here to defend. Behind this one, no one actually has a really operational trade from corner to corner, although it looks like Max and Vilas are able to get some trade cards in. They do have 13 trade cards. Oh, there is Dogao to stop that.
Yeah, I doubt they're going to be having trade for much longer. It is definitely a tough position for them, but yeah, look at that cute little drops that's happening right there with the Rams as well. Just getting all those, trying to get those Halberdiers in nice and close. Castle drop now beginning down the bottom. The Les is doing his best to just try and force his opponent to react to this. We see just how much damage he's able to do, but majority of his economy has migrated down towards that southeast side of the map. Halberdiers moving forward, going to be connecting with the war wagons here as the war wagons do their best to escape. Trebuchets getting set up on the back line, or rather, getting unset up, getting packed up over on the back line, and another castle almost under, or completely under construction. That castle does go down for Vilas.
Yeah,
Bit of a difficult time for him.
Yeah, Vilas was under fire from 5 traps here, so that castle went down pretty fast. In exchange, though, I feel like the main way to push here for Vilas would be more rams, but it doesn't seem to have the gold threat just yet. Elite skirms being teched into by Dogao, as he does have a castle to deny the trade. Some will just go for a market that's closer. So at least the Finns have a consistent gold income that lasts beyond the mineable golds. And that's not something the Brazilians have. So in the long run, the Finns probably have the advantage.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. My main concern is that this war wagon mass is beginning to build up significantly right now. We've got a lot of war wagons out right here. And despite a couple of them getting converted over to Max's allegiance, it really is beginning to build, and that's exactly what Dogao wants to be doing. And down towards the south side, I feel like Miguel is actually managing to hold this push relatively well, despite that little ram coming in there, taking out some more trebs, sending it the... Oh, Lord God, they do some damage, don't they, those rams? Jeez Louise. That castle looks like it's going to be going down, and just when I thought that it couldn't get any worse for Miguel, it looks like it is going to be getting worse as that castle goes down. And now the push begins into the north, and we've actually got Miguel who's decided to come in and help out. So for the first time in this game, we've got a little bit of a 2-on-1 action, and we've got, by the same token, I see some red units in there, but they're only trading units, and that's not going to be what you need in times like these.
And they are going down. Those are very expensive trade cards. Trade cards do cost gold, so it's actually very expensive to lose them. On the other side, I feel like the thing is that there isn't really a huge amount of army here for Vilas that can destroy the eco of Miguel, and Miguel's got a lot of eco back here, whereas for Max, he is now losing a serious portion of his economy. If he manages to find a way to deck into Cavalier and get like 15-20 Cavalier in, he could easily take the fight against the War Wagons, but as you said, that army for the Brazilians is growing really rapidly.
Yeah, it's getting out of hand at this point. We see how many war wagons is that? Is that close to 30 war wagons, I think we see?
32.
Yeah, 32 war wagons. That's a huge amount, and I feel like this is starting to reach that critical mass where once it reaches this amount, it's really difficult for you to stop. I mean, on the south side of the map, we can see that, you know, Velis is having a difficult time down here against Miguel. Scores incredibly close to each other, but my suspicion is that we're going to see GG getting called out relatively soon here, with Suomi going to be going, unfortunately, down for defeat. But I got to say, at this point, Heresy looking incredibly strong. The Brazilian players just really putting on a clinic on how to do this. I'm just so impressed with the way that Gao played this. Having the forethought or the foresight to come through and wall up those golds, prevent his opponent from mining them, forcing his opponent to really use his natural starting gold, and then at the same time hitting him with that timing attack so that he's got nothing that he can really do, nothing that he can really build from that. We still see those golds sitting there right now, and they've got plenty of resources on them because they were stonewalled in at the very beginning of the game.
And so the guy was going for them. The guy was going for it.
Just, yeah, it is just the ultimate, you know, salt in the wounds right there, isn't it?
Now, Suomi will reclaim the other corner though, and they're big survivors. We have seen that Max was patient in one of the previous times. He's getting supremacy, which will make his villagers become absolute beasts. That's just going to prevent a lot of raids, and Max was waiting for a lot of cavalry here. It's mostly light cav, but I feel like at this point it's all about Max slowing this push down, and I think he actually has the chance to slow this down. He just needs to be patient.
So you think that there's a chance?
I certainly think so, because remember that the Brazilians don't have any trades, so Miguel is out of gold as well, which means that losing those bombard cannons will be extremely expensive for him. And the same thing for Gao, if he ever loses this group of war wagons, replenishing that is gonna be a nightmare.
That's alright, he's got another group right over here. That's a lot of war wagons. That's gonna be close to 40 war wagons at this point.
Yeah, this is still pretty rough for the Finns. But in theory, they do have the army numbers advantage. It's the army quality that's pretty bad. I think the key thing is that Miguel needs to run out of gold for this one to work for Suomi. Brazilians just now starting their trade, but the Spanish trade gives an advantage for the Finns here. And also, I think they have better trade numbers. Yeah, much better trade numbers. 40 trade cards versus 3 is
wow,
a pretty massive advantage in gold income.
Yeah, that's an absolutely huge amount. So I'm curious to see exactly if whether they're going to be able to hold on. One of the things that you mentioned was it might be a little bit too early to call, so I'm curious to see exactly how it's going to go down. I'm noticing that we've got a little bit of a build-up of units now for Max, so he's looking to try and get in. He's got a couple of Hussars now building down towards the south on his opponent, but once again we see more units beginning to connect down here towards the south. Velis having a bit of a difficult time as he tries to dodge out, but now the Hussars getting in on top of those war wagons, but there's just so many war wagons. Look at the way that they just eat the units alive. There's halberdiers in there trying their best to get a good trade. A little bit of a surround right here. A gate up as well over here. Let's see if he just forces his way through it, but
that's
so
a great
many
surround.
War wagons.
That's a great surround.
It is a really good surround, but he just walks straight through that gate, says, "What gate?" And he continues forcing his way through those walls. He's down to 40 war wagons at the moment, so 3 of them have fallen down. It looks like another one's going to be going down. 2 more go down, 3 more go down. He's doing his best. There are more being replenished in from the side, 3 more coming in. At the same time, we've got Trebuchets just firing their way, but he's found a pretty good choke point in here, and he's huddling himself in nice and tight, preventing anyone from really getting in there at all. If we do a quick check, I'm curious exactly how many war wagons he's managed to keep alive. He's got 43. It's a difficult spot. When you get a surround that's good, that is that good, Lidicore, and you can't make it work, what do you do?
I think that this actually worked out because it pushed back the war wagons and Max is stacking into Paladins. This is buying a lot of time for someone. Remember, Max is floating 2,500 gold. If he turns that into 20 Paladin and he just needs production, he's gonna steamroll the war wagons. The Paladins will eat everything. And at this point, it's just a matter of buying yourself time. And the only problem that Max is having is it doesn't have enough stables to mass the Cavalier, but in 2 minutes of time, I think he will swing this battle back in his favor.
All right, I'm looking forward to it because that war wagon mass continues to build up. We see it reaching almost 50 war wagons at this point, and the trebuchets are continuing. But at the same time, down towards the south, this push continues to happen. And I tell you what, we got a lot of fronts going on this battle. I'm curious, what have we got in the way of water? Because there's not really much that we've seen from it in the beginning. There's no transport ships out here. There's just a few fishing ships out here just, doing their stuff. But we haven't seen any drops. There's completely open bases right now. It's kind of like a turtle. A turtle, it's got that hard shell, but you turn it over, you tickle it on the tummy, and that's where the soft spot is. And it's exactly the same right now for the bases of all these players, because it's kind of like the back door. But I'd be curious to see whether we do spot, and look at those trade numbers now beginning to come up. We see that the Brazilians are up to 26 traders right now, so Miguel doing a great job of working out his economy and trying to get it back, but this push begins to come in, and now we see the Spanish player moving in with all of these upgraded cavalry units beginning to hit, and let's see exactly how well he does at holding Dugout, just firing away. He's got 41 of these war wagons and just microing his way back, focusing down these units and just really trying to do his best, but looks like he might be a little bit stuck there, trying his best just to get around. Are they... I'm trying to see exactly, are they ARBs? I can't actually see. There's so much going on the screen right now, but he's managed to keep a fair amount of them alive. How many exactly are there? We've got 25, so he's taken a huge hit to his army.
And remember, Dogao has 4 trade cards, which means that once the mineable gold runs out, replacing this is gonna be a nightmare for him. Whereas for the Finns, they have way more trade cards, and they also have the Spanish trade bonus. Suomi is pushing this one back, and if you look at the other side, Miguel is also getting pushed back here by the Finns.
It's actually impressive. I called GG, and now I'm eating my own shoes, Lidicore. It's one of those tough situations, but just take a look at how much military is coming in here right now. These are absolutely huge amounts of cavalry that are coming in. Going to be more than capable of cleaning this out. Who would have known that 50 war wagons actually lose to just upgraded cavalry units? And that's exactly what looks to be happening. He's doing his best to try and kite away. Look at all those... Are those barracks? Those are all barracks right there. That's a lot of barracks. They're all producing halberdiers, so doing his best. But I feel like the damage is done. The massive units has sort of dwindled to the point now. You probably needed that 40, maybe 45. That was where the critical mass was. But even then, the halberdiers are coming out now. But I feel like it's a little bit too late. Do you think that Valise and Max are going to be able to actually win this game?
It's hard to say, because now the Halberdiers will slow down Max's push, but I think that that's fine for Suomi, because they were always sort of winning the south. It was a matter of surviving on the north. And now they will be able to hold the north pretty convincingly. And Halberdiers are nice to slow down the Paladins, but their population efficiency isn't that great. And down south, it is Miguel that's getting steamrolled, who has no tools to stop those Arbalests right now. And we're getting closer and closer to the trade, and whoever gets to the opponent's trade first here is probably going to win the game.
Yeah, one of the things that really impressed me was the fact that we saw the Byzantines move down towards the south of the map and readjust those markets. So we saw that Dugout placed a castle in the trade line of his opponent, and now we've got a little bit of a concern because we've got rams in the trade line, and that's never somewhere you want to have rams. Oh, that single villager got through and did all of this damage. That is going to be concerning because you just mentioned he's getting through to the trade line, and once he gets there, that's when it's going to be almost pretty much GG guaranteed. And yeah, it looks like he might be.
Elite Cataphract being tagged into by Vilas, that's a unit that will destroy everything that's on the field. So, Halberdiers will die to them. war wagons probably as well. So if Vilas gets to a decent amount of elite catapract, it's all over for the Brazilians. But this is definitely going to slow down Suomi. And especially, it's not even about cleaning up the units, it's about cleaning up all these buildings in your trade. That's very annoying. Unless this Voyager goes down, this would be so important for Vilas to kill. Then he can
It
just send
looks
2 siege rams and clean this up. Luckily, he has some siege workshops close by.
Yeah, and he's got siege rams under construction right now, so fortunately it should be pretty easy for him to clean that up. We did see one of those markets going down, but still, there's plenty more markets in the back that remain. How many traders have we got at the moment? I'm curious.
88 for Suomi and only 45 for the Brazilians. And Suomi also has extra efficiency.
It's definitely looking to be one of those games that that went one way and then very quickly turned the other way. We see the scores beginning to switch as well. Valise and Max obviously up by about 3k score now, so they're really pushing it. And looks like this castle going to be going down as well. So Valise really just pushing in for the final blow right here. We see Degao bringing down war wagons down towards the south of the map. It's one of the first times he's ever been down this part of the map, and that should probably indicate to you exactly how this game is going, because when he's splitting up his army, he is concerned, my friends, because this is a difficult spot for him.
Miguel is stacking into Paladin as well, but he won't have the gold that Max has to flood Paladin. And I see a transport ship coming in from a yellow player, also cannon galleons. Oh, that's what Max is thinking about.
Oh,
Max,
he's tickling the tummy.
Yeah, he's going to send in a couple of Paladins over here and just run straight into the trade. Now I think Suomi has a firm control over the game.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. Suomi are going to be going in for the killing blow with that Paladin, that cheeky little transport ship, undoubtedly. But once again, we see these war wagons trying to do their best to just clean up these halberdiers. This time it's over on the south of the map rather than over on the north of the map, and having a difficult time. Trade line still looking relatively healthy, but oh no. Oh no. You guys and your sneaky little villagers. You just managed to sneak on a villager. How do they even get through? Where are these villagers? They just magically...
I think this villager was left here when it finished the market and no one noticed. That's usually how these stay alive. Now the halberdiers are pushing back Max on the south or the north, but he can just transport those paladins in, and more importantly, now the south is wide open for raiding, so things are collapsing here for Miguel.
Yeah, it's looking pretty tough. How have we got an update yet on that transport ship? What's the deal with that? What's the go with that?
Yeah,
Nope, just still sitting there.
Max is probably too busy dealing with that right now. The forward from the Brazilians has been cleaned up though, and now I see paladins inside the trade of the Brazilians. I think we're very close to a 2-2 scoreline here.
I think you might be right. It definitely, you know, the big difference for me between coming from Age of Empires 3 to Age of Empires 2, it's not over until the fat lady sings. And I tell you what, she ain't singing. She might be singing now, though. I'll tell you what, she's pretty close to singing at this point, because it's an impressive turnaround that they managed to pull out. Valise and Max have done an absolute impressive job. But now we've got this transport ship heading across the open ocean. The open ocean, also known as the Turtle's Belly, going over for a little bit of a tickle. Let's see exactly what he can do. It's almost like he's expecting units to drop off. We saw those paladins just chilling inside the base, and now here they go. 10 paladins just casually hanging out.
By the time they arrived here, Vilas just marched in from the side anyway, so this was probably the most complicated way to get the paladins into the base of Miguel anyways.
He probably could have just right-clicked them. It would have been a lot easier. They would have gone around the long way, but they would have gone eventually. But now that villager going down, no more sneaky villagers here on the north-hand side, but still got some Spanish paladins that are going to be coming out, and just villagers in every corner of the map. This is absolute chaos at this point. Can we do a quick stock take and check exactly how many traders we've got for each team at this point?
All above 100 for the Finns.
And GG gets called.
Half of that for Heresy, and boy oh boy, after now the army is much greater for Suomi. They have 387 population, 294 for Heresy. What a comeback this was, and I think it was patience from Max. He knew exactly that, okay, this looks grim, I lost my starting base, but I still have space, I still have resources. I will just wait until I have my paladin mass and take one decisive fight to push this back, allow Vilas to finish off the south.
Absolutely insane game. the patience from Max just was insane. The fact that he held on for that long despite losing literally his entire base, incredible. Really, really well played by him, and very impressive to Suomi. I tell you what, going into the fifth game, it's going to be hard to one up that last game. That was an absolute insane game. 56 minutes in total, but I tell you what, it felt like it went for a lot longer. There was absolute chaos throughout that. So impressive stuff from our Finnish team.
So, after these long and grinding games, it's always very, very interesting to go back to the humble beginnings of the game. And for different reasons. If you just play random map, it just feels so weird that you have these long games, all those fighting going on, and then you go back and you have free villagers in the town center. But in Empire Wars, it's much more interesting because suddenly one mistake could actually be much bigger than here. Here, it's more about the macro. You make one mistake, you probably have the resources, the population to make up for it. But now you have to go back to potentially a very aggressive map, and you once again will have to be careful not to lose the villagers to the opening scout of the opponent and stuff like that.
I'm curious what maps we've got next, or what maps remain for Heresy.
Well, we do have an even scoreline now. Heresy has Kawasan and Golden Pit remaining, two pretty traditional maps. They have Khmer, Malay, Sicilians, Italians, Indians, Bohemians, and Malians remaining. Fairly certain that Malians could be a pick on Kawasan or Atacama. It depends on if whether or not they want to dock on Atacama. Sicilians is a big question mark to me, not sure what to take out of that. And we discussed that Italians was not used in here, so they have that. Speaking of Italians, Italians would have been so good stopping those Padins for Heresy in the previous game, but they opted to go for a different approach. So no Italians for us in that one. We'll have to use it elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm curious whether we're going to be seeing Italians coming up in this game. I suspect we're probably going to be seeing Kawasan and then an Italian pick, but obviously we've got Golden Pit as well to potentially look at. So I'm curious, if you were in their position, what would you be taking if it was Golden Pit? Would you be looking at, say, something like the Indians potentially?
Golden Pit, that's Berbers for me, guaranteed. I'm not really a fan of Indians overall in 2v2s. I kind of feel like the only way Indians work is if your archer player is clearly better than the opponent's archer player. Because your camels can't kill the opponent's archers. So if your opponent just has a better archer player than your team does, then he's just gonna play crossbows and eat both your teammates' crossbows and your camels. So I don't think that Indians is a good choice here, to be honest, or at least not yet.
Hmm.
So Berbers is guaranteed. The question is, what do you do to match up against that? And I honestly have no idea. Maybe, just maybe Sicilians could be an interesting idea to consider.
Yes, we've still got the Portuguese that could be picked. Probably going to be picked on Atacama when it gets to that, because it will be
likely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Portuguese, Japanese could also go for Atacama for the cheaper drop-off buildings. Japanese will either go for Kawasan or Atacama. I think Slavs feels like it's going to be the Kawasan pick for cavalry, and then you go two turns on Atacama. Or actually, you could go Burgundians as well on Kawasan. I think Somi has a bit of more flexibility with their civilizations, especially the fact that they have Berbers for Golden Pit and that's logged there is something that matters a lot because they can flex around their other civilizations between the Kawasan and Atacama, whereas for Heresy, they really have to think over what they use against Berbers on Golden Pit.
Hmm.
Alright. Let's see if they are ready. It looks like they are. We're going to Kawasan. So, speaking of
I'm expecting Italy.
civilizations, Yeah, Italians. I genuinely believe that picking Italians for Atacama would be so weird, and since we haven't seen them on Forest Pond, Italians should be something that gets considered for Kawasan. Then, well, it's tricky because Malay could be an amazing Civ for Kawasan as well, maybe even better. But yeah, I think Malay and Italians come down to Atacama and Kawasan, and Golden Pit will probably end up being Bohemians for Heresy. And in terms of Cavalry Civ, I am probably vouching for Malians here. So Malians, Italians could be a nice combo. Whereas on the other side, I think this is gonna be Burgundians and Japanese duo most likely.
Hmm. I'm looking forward to seeing some Burgundians. Let's take a look and see what we've got.
Um, Portuguese
Mm.
Burgundians and Sicilians Malay. So it looks
Wow.
like they still save Italians. It might actually end up being unused as it is. But Malay,
Curious.
it's a very good civilization as well. They get very nice power spikes, and on Kawasan, you can easily snowball a game like that. Sicilians is a bit of an awkward Civ choice here. It's not sort of the ordinary Civ selection, but there are some things to love about Sicilians. They can build town centers really fast, for example, so you could go and town center the berries in the middle really easily. They have the bonus damage reduction on their cavalry, so their early scouts could do a lot of damage as they are very hard to kill even with spears. And
Mm. Mm.
on the other side, Burgundians is a little bit more generic of a cavalry civilization. The map is pretty well defendable, so Burgundians can get their eco bonus uh, nice and rolling. It's actually interesting that we are going to see Burgundian Sicilians as a matchup here. Something
Yeah.
that came in the previous DLC.
Yeah, it's interesting that both of them got picked on the exact same match in the same matchup. Yes, that they're coming in together. I did not expect to see that. So yeah, looking forward to it. Uh, so the map, obviously, we're playing on Kawasan. It's got the four small ponds that you're able to access fishing through. There's also, is it the large berry patch that's in the middle?
Yeah, exactly. That's why Franks is often a popular pick here because Franks have a berry gathering bonus, and you would have an insane food income using that. As we jump into game number 5, unless we crashed. No, we didn't crash. Okay, we're all set. So, welcome everyone to Kawasan. Miguel's going to be playing Sicilians here in blue, and his teammate will be Dogawa's Malay green. Right side, Burgundians for Max in yellow, and Portuguese for Villas in red. I kind of feel like I like Sicilians and Malay a little bit better over here, but it's a pretty close matchup, I would say.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be paying a bit more attention to the Portuguese, especially after the last game. Belize and the Max doing just an absolute stunning job of managing to just sort of hold on for dear life and sort of keeping their cool. So I'll be curious to see exactly how the game is going to unfold here. We see those little walls already beginning to build up. It's going to be left versus right. Keep that in mind. So we've got yellow and red over on the right versus the green and the blue on the left. Which way is it going to go though? So we're gonna have oh gosh, that scout just getting so damn close to those villagers, really just looking for it. We see that another villager moving out around the outside, just doing his best to scout out the layout of the opponent's base and see exactly what he's able to uncover. Nice back gold mine here, nice and safe. But it looks like he spotted a villager here, gonna potentially be able to take her out. Obviously, she's got that all important armor, but it looks like he's just sort of turned away, just given up on it. Obviously, very cognizant of the fact that the town center might be saying g'day to him, so he falls back as well. Now we spot archers up towards the south of the map, and gonna be what's going on here? Villager, I think they're just paying respects to the villager.
Yeah,
That's
one
yeah,
villager goes down
it's
over
something you
here.
do. Yeah, when the villager goes down, everybody around him has to idle, pay their respects, and then back to work. You know, it's a quick funeral. Just bury him. He's done.
Just bury him, like bury him.
You're terrible. You're terrible, Lidicore. Stop it.
Alright, looks like these walls will be a close call over here. Spearman is out to defend. Should be enough just in time for the Gao. So, not much that Max can do. On the other side, though, hello there, that's two archers moving in.
Yeah, definitely a little bit concerning at this point when the archers move in like this. You can see it's reflected by the response as well. Just so many villagers, a little bit of a hole right here in between these two houses. Let's see if these villagers, if these archers try and exploit that hole, but deciding that they're not going to do it, just continue
That's not a hole.
firing away.
That's a
Wait,
little bamboo.
Oh, oh my lord! I apologize. Oh, I didn't see that bamboo hidden behind the I don't even know what it's called. I've gone blank. The part of the building that hasn't been built yet. I'll just go with that.
Foundation.
Foundations. Thank you so much, Lidicor. Gosh, what's the time? Oh, it's 3 a.m. That's probably why I'm having a little bit of a blank, but that's all right.
Now, Max's berries are really exposed here. He even had to make a defensive tower. That's not really helpful for him, but we're sort of seeing the same passivity that we have seen from the teams before. They are really cautious about any kind of engagement. It looks like Miguel wanted to sneak a villager forward, potentially for a dock. We'll take a fight against the spearman, but I think the villager can actually beat the spear here unless the spear takes the high ground.
Yeah, I'm curious a little bit about the meta. Obviously, when it comes to this map, we've got 4 ponds, we've got 4 players. So every player's got their own pond, but it's not that simple because each pond spawns between different players. It does look like that villager may be going down, or at least push back away from this spear. When it comes to the safe pond, is there typically a civilization that goes for the safe pond? Is that normally the cavalry civ that's going to be going for that?
I don't think there's a clearly defined meta. It more feels like, as we have a couple of camels running through the map, Kawasan is a Japanese-themed map, so camels being here is awkward, but we left it in the script because it looks good.
And speaking of looking good right now, I tell you what, Degao and Miguel looking great, forcing a couple of villagers off berries into the tower, and a few villagers unfortunately going to be soaking into the ground there. So a couple of villagers going to be going down. I didn't see exactly how many it was. It looked like 2, maybe 3 villagers going down there. But now going to be hitting away on this south wall and going to be doing their best. We see that there's plenty of age ups in queue at this point. So we've got 3 age ups going up right now. We've got both players on the Suomi team that are going to be aging up at very similar times. And at the same time, we've got Degao on the Malay who's going to be aging up behind this. He's got less than a minute until he reaches that 3rd age. It's going to be so important for him to get there. We see the way that he continues looping around this base as well, down towards the south side. It looks like, are there any exposed spots for Valise? I'd be curious to see if he's got all of his walls up down towards the south, but we'll have to take a look at that. But just doing great at sort of creating space here for themselves at the moment. I'd be curious to see exactly how this pans out. We've got 3 players that are on water. The only exception is Miguel. Miguel has not decided to go water. Why? Why, Lidicor? Why has he decided not to?
It's hard to say, because he had a 4 villager, so there was a chance that his plan was that he's just gonna go full focus on land, grabbing bloodlines just now, and later on drop a dock and push this one in Castle Age, and once he took the pond, he's going to play for the fish. So obviously, when you go for the pond, you invest a lot of resources into the fishing, and it needs some time to pay off. But, oh, this is going to be big. Max's 2nd stable will get denied here, or at least delayed, which will obviously hurt because he wants to produce knights, and what's more important is that he needs to get the Cavalier upgrade with the Burgundians.
Just taking a look at all the upgrades that are coming through now and looking for these timings. We see that crossbows have now come through for both players as well. These scouts are going to be in a bit of a difficult spot. Valise doing his best just to try and force these shots down, but going to be having a bit of a difficult time as the scouts do manage to connect right now as Miguel chases away these crossbows, but they're going to be taking a whole bunch of damage. Looks like they're going to be able to manage to retain the majority of their mass. And just look at how, despite being followed by all of these scouts, he's just ignoring them and he's focusing down the crossbows like there's nothing even attacking him. And now beginning to move closer and closer. And now we've got knights beginning to come in. Knights first and foremost targeting down those spears, those all-important spears, and now just going to be pushing back the enemy player. So Valise and Max look to be taking the initiative in this game. I'd be curious to see exactly how aggressive they are after this or what their play is. We see that 2nd town centers are now going down. We've got the Portuguese dropping down a 2nd town center on this gold mine. It's a little bit, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a safe gold mine, but it's looking a lot safer than most of the gold on the map. I'm curious as to whether we're going to be seeing any town centers towards the middle of the map. Perhaps that's where we're going to be seeing Miguel expand to, because obviously he hasn't taken a dock, at least not yet. Can we actually take a look at his safe pond very, very quickly? I'd be curious to note. There's a villager standing on it, so we may actually see a dock come up for him. It's better late than never. We're 12 minutes through this game, so, you know, it could have come through at 2 minutes or it could come through at 12. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter for him. But these crossbows just doing a great job. Wolf getting in on the action as well, looking to connect. It looks like it managed to get a couple bites in over onto Miguel's Knights, but they've managed to make it away. And I tell you what, a bit of an action-packed game considering how much walls have gone up at this point, Liticor. Do you think that there's any particular team that's at an advantage?
I certainly think that this is probably going to be a very nice imp timing for Brazil here. Dogao is waiting for that fast Imperial play. He had a lot of fishing eco completely untouched, so he could just get a decent amount of food in. And with Malay, you have faster age ups, so... Well, guess what? Triple range Arbalests could be pretty powerful here. The base of Max is well defended, so I think Viles could be the target of an Arbalest push here.
This is an incredibly early Imperial. Is this something that is quite common to see with the Malay?
I think so. Even if you don't go for fast imp, the whole concept of the Malay is that your age ups are faster, so you really want to nail those power spikes.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. We can see that his mass is slightly smaller than his opponents, but obviously once he gets completely upgraded, he's going to be looking pretty darn decent. And looks like the foundations of... Was that a mosque that was being constructed in the middle, or a...
Yeah, it was monastery.
A monastery?
Well, there's 6 relics in the middle that you could easily pick up if no one is contesting it, so might as well go for it. You just gotta wait a little bit for the Arbalest upgrade, but the numbers aren't really amazing here for the Gao. That's the concern that he's having, and at this point it's 50 army versus 37. Sure enough, the quality is gonna be better for the Brazilians, but Dogao's eco isn't that huge, so replenishing those Arbalests would be pretty expensive and problematic for him in the long run.
Yeah, I got to agree with you 100%. I think at this point, it's just best they want to sit back, wait for those upgrades. We see Brace are about to come in right now, as well as Arbs is about to come in about 5 seconds, and then he's good to engage. I'm curious as to what you think the sort of mass that he can take on is reasonable. 34 crossbows versus 22 Arbs. Is that going to be a reasonable trade?
I think it depends on the range, because the Arbs will outrange the crossbows by 1, so it depends on how much you micro those Arbs. In theory, 1 Arbalest can defeat 50 crossbows just by winning with range. In reality, especially when there is cavalry support, I think this is an army that can still take on the Arbs of Dogao here, but it looks like they will decide not to, because Vilas is also going into Imperial.
Yeah, it's a very early Imperials coming out from both sides here. So this Imperial obviously going to be a lot slower though, because not only is it getting clicked up later, but doesn't have that all-important Malay bonus of the faster age ups. But now we've got a little bit of trouble over here for the Finnish team, because the Brazilians are moving underneath this town center and going to be looking to clear it out. Just look how quickly that town center is getting sieged down. The Knights whacking away at it, doing their best. We see the unfortunate positioning of the military of the Finnish team, and we see down towards that south side of the pond. On the south side of the map, there are still units that are coming around ever so slowly. I don't think they appreciated exactly how fast and how swiftly this military force was going to be moving towards their base. And as a result, we see that the town center does go down. But I think the question is, would you still even bother fighting it when they've got these significant upgrades? We see chemistries coming in. Obviously, Bracer already has come in, as well as the ARB upgrade. Compare that over to the Finnish side. We've still got Age 4 that's on the way at the moment, so we're almost going to be behind 3 upgrades. That's incredibly important, and when you consider the fact that ARB versus crossbow numbers are even now for both sides, there is a significant advantage for the Heresy team.
Exactly, and now the... Oh, that's the Imp TC. That's the Imperial HTC for Vilas, and it's very low in HP. This is a fight that the Brazilians have to take. And the Finns also have to take this, otherwise the town center goes down.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate. This is really, really smart, the fact that they've pushed in at this time, and they look to be just doing their best. They're probably going to be able to fend this one off ever so slightly. The TC is going to be able to manage to research Imp, and oh my lord, how quickly and how close that was. What percentage of health was that town center at?
Something like 20%.
Yeah, wow.
we have to just let everybody know here, for those of you that don't know, that glow that we are seeing when you're going up the next stage, that's only for the player that's in control of that. So only Vilas sees the age up glow on his building. Same thing for the upgrades. So Dogao and Miguel did not know that his opponent was imping with that town center.
Yeah, they probably definitely could have assumed when they committed to that fight that was the way. But now we take a look at the military forces. We see that things are starting to even up, but the question for me really comes down to economy. We see 140 villages up against 120. So a significant difference, and more villages now getting picked off, rather fishing boats getting picked off. It's got to be careful. The fire galley moved out, but getting sniped off before it could even get a shot off, unfortunately. And these arbs down here got to be careful because the knights, they're posturing. I see a couple knights, but undoubtedly there's more on the way just north of this position as they begin to close in right now. Plenty of arbs doing it, and here come the knights looking to connect, and arbs are going to be having a very difficult time. Valise needs backup. Max, where are you? He's running for his life. He's heading down towards the south. We see the forces of Max just doing their best to try and get through those walls. They're going to take time, but unfortunately, there's just so much that's already connected from these knights, and really a difficult spot now for this Suomi team. They're having a difficult spot because these arbs are just absolutely taking them to town. We take a look at the military population. We see it's beginning to dwindle for the team. The Knights are doing an absolutely outstanding job of just keeping this military under wraps, but they seem to have broken somewhat even at this point and forced their opponents back into their base, but managed to break even relatively. We see Max now reaching the Imperial Age as well at this point in time. We've got everybody in the Imperial Age except for Miguel. Miguel was the only player who didn't start on the water, and as a result, his economy is going to be behind. He's got those 3 TCs up, though, but keep in mind, it's not going to be enough to sort of carry him into that all-important Imperial Age just yet.
Yeah, the thing is that Max didn't really want to take that fight, and I'm sure Vilas didn't want that either, because they were waiting for Max to reach to Imp, get the defense upgrade, and probably even Paladin. But guess what? They had to take that fight, lost most of the Cavalier. Still at 20 is Max, but all the Arbalests went down from Vilas. He's down to 33 now, as opposed to 53.
Yeah, it's a difficult spot. Then once again, we see that they're pushing in onto the base. They're doing the double push, idling that gold as well. It's a really difficult spot. You see that they continue to take the agency throughout this game. They're constantly in their opponent's base, constantly idling the opponent, forcing the opponent to react to them. It makes it so difficult to deal with. And here we see that they're dropping down these houses just preemptively to prevent, units coming through. But those arbs are moving up, going to be denying any villagers that do try and drop those down. But yeah, look at this, just absolutely everywhere. How do you react to something like this, Lida?
It's hard to say, especially if you consider how much gold income Max has. He has lost 2 gold mines over here to the Arbalests, and the back of his base is also being raided by knights, just denying all the gold income. And what's even bigger is that the stable here went down. That's the stable that Max was using to get Paladin. This sets him back a lot. That's 2.5 minutes delay, and Burgundians really need that cheap Paladin, because otherwise their Cavalier is pretty underwhelming even in Imperial. They don't have bloodlines. And now it's Miguel imping as well. Max is down to 54 villagers, something that we didn't talk about just yet.
That's a really tough spot, isn't it? But yeah, you can begin to see the significant villager count now. Heresy up 184 villagers compared to Suomi on 129 villagers now. It's a really difficult spot for them. I'm very hesitant to call GG because, as you know, you call GG and then 20 minutes later it turns to go out the other way, but it's looking pretty dire right now for Suomi.
Yeah, there is 5 relics in the middle for Miguel as well, so he's gonna have a very, very nice gold trickle as well. And when Miguel gets to Imperial, he's gonna get the Sicilia unique upgrade, so his Cavalier will be amazing. 83 Arbalests for Dogao, 48 for Vilas, but the real problem is that how many cavalry units can Max field with only 54 villagers? That's just feels impossible, and he's only 2 town centers, so rebooming is going to take forever for him.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, what's the way that you deal with a mass of arbs this big? Obviously, 86 is just an insane amount of arbs. Is there anything that this team can possibly throw at this that would potentially win the game? And we just see this very cute arb micro over here coming out of Dogao, just microing a couple of arbs down here on the left-hand side, taking a lot of the focus fire from Valisa's archers. But unfortunately, it looks like now some cavalry is going to be connecting. Imperial Age being reached by Miguel. The Knights are coming in as well to do their best. But it does look like the push is going to be able to at least push them off the high ground, down towards the low ground. They're going to be able to establish some semblance of control out here in the middle. But keep in mind, Miguel's hit the Imperial Age now. He's going to be having his upgrades coming in very shortly. And then they're going to be able to retake that top tier that is so important to hold.
Yeah. Currently, I think the reason why this is a little bit misleading is because it kind of feels like Suomi is winning this fight, but Suomi has very, very little tools, especially Max, to replenish his army. The Arbalest numbers are pretty close, and right now the Cavalier numbers as well. It's just a matter of how long can Max sustain this level of production, especially when they rolls up against 5 relics, so Miguel's got a lot of extra gold from that as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a difficult spot. We see that he's actually beginning to break through the walls now, so is this what Max needs? He actually spots a hole through the wall. He's going to begin to idle villagers in the town as well. And doing a great job, Degauiz, of just holding back Velise. And that's exactly what he needs to be doing. Velise has got to be careful there. Watch out for his opponent. Look how big that mass is, unfortunately. But now villagers beginning to dwindle down for Heresy. We spot their villager count. We see they're on 183, but it is beginning to dwindle. One more villager going down. A second villager going to be going down. And it's going to be, closing the gap ever so slightly. We spot 63 and 85 villagers up against 105 and 76. So it is a gap that is significant, but at the same time, it's not something that can't be overcome. The main concern, as you mentioned, is going to be whether Max is going to be able to get those reinforcements in and really keep it going. We see that he is still causing havoc in the base of Miguel at the moment, and he's buying time, and that's exactly what he needs to be doing when he's this far behind.
Exactly. Arbalest numbers are better for the Gao, but if you look at the villager count of the cavalry player, suddenly it gets closer, and we have seen this a lot of times from Max, just raiding his way back into the game. If he can find another good raid here, Miguel could be in trouble. And I feel like with the cheaper Portuguese Arbalests, plus the fact that you have Feitorias trickling in resources for you, will mean that Villa's 85 villagers is comparable to Dogao's 105 over here. So Max just needs one good raid here, and I don't see anything that cleans this up right now.
Yeah, it's a decent spot, and it looks like he's going to be opening up that south side of the base and potentially looking to idle his opponent once again. But now we've got to push heading out towards the north of the map, and keep in mind those cavalry are upgraded. Looks like he's got a number of upgrades in, and beginning once again to hit away at these villages. You mentioned that if he does break through, it's going to be difficult for him. Cavaliers now going to be attacking down that monastery and beginning to push on the north side of the map. And it's definitely a little bit of a difficult spot for him because got a huge massive arbs behind here, 93 arbs in total for Heresy, a huge amount of arbs, and looking to break through. It looks like they've managed to get through behind into the town center as well. We've got raids on both sides of the map. Villager counts are beginning to get closer to each other, but the main concern that we're going to have right now is Suomi's going to have to put down a defense right here. They're fighting underneath the town center. We see the huge massive arbs from Velise coming in on the south side. He's got to be careful though, because we've got two players that are together and they're being sandwiched down here from the south and from the north. They've got to try and pick their fights, and it's going to be difficult because these arbs are trying their best to trade it out. And the question is going to be who's going to be able to come out on top. And the concerning part for me, I don't know about you, Ludicor, but I see that cavalry moving down here towards the south, and that's what concerns me the most. Let's take a look and see exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, the odd
who
numbers
do you think's in a better position?
The odd numbers are better for the Brazilians here, and Max, although he killed quite a lot of villagers here from Miguel, he also lost a lot himself. So I kind of feel like at this point, when both teams have sort of lost their majority of their eco, it's gonna come down to army numbers, and that's way better for the Brazilians.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Look how many arbs there are. It's just absolute insanity. There is just so many arbs out right now. It's crazy. How do you even deal with this many arbs? Is the answer artillery? Is that what's going to do it? Like, I feel like even artillery is not going to work against that many arbs.
Yeah, nuclear weapons probably work, but they're not implemented in the game just yet.
Just yeah. Okay, we'll speak to the devs about that one, but yeah, looking like a very difficult spot right now for the Finnish team.
Look at the Arbalest numbers. They're getting closer, and Dogao is about to lose his army here. It's easier for Max to reinforce from all these stables surrounding this. And what's very important is that Miguel didn't get the unique upgrade for Sicilians up until now. Once he gets that, his Cavalier will be pretty much resistant to all arrow fire. but that could have been very useful before.
Yeah, and take a look at the reinforcing cavalry that's now coming in for the Sicilians. So Miguel going to be having a pretty good time because that upgrade has now come in. And take a look at the pierce armor that he's got on that. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Going to be
Yeah.
barely scratching him. There's a little bit of a nice choke point here, so only going to be a couple of cavaliers that are actually able to scratch the surface of the crossbows, rather the arbs. But the difficult point is going to be that at this point, he's just wiped out so much of the military. When it comes to villager count is relatively even at this point, within 10 villages of each other. So
Yeah, both cavalry players are dead, basically. But Suomi is starting to trade here. Now, I'm not sure if that's a good idea. You have so much mineable gold still on the outside. It definitely helps Max in terms of just adding extra economy one way or another. And now he's on 4 TCs. So I feel like we could be in for a very long game here, but currently the army numbers are much more convincing for the Brazilians. And that's going to help them close out the game if they push now.
Yeah, well, if there's one thing I know about this Finnish team, it's that they indeed hold on until the very end. So I'm not going to count them out at all after that last game. That was incredible stuff. So we'll have to take a look and see exactly how it's going to unfold because Heresy's moving into the base of Suomi, going to be taking out that town center. Castle going down here to the south. I doubt that's going to be enough to hold on to what they really need to be doing, but we spot it's going up pretty quickly though at this point. Max doing his best just to get it up. It's going to be protecting this stone as well as that TC. I think it's a pretty decent spot, but overall my main concern is just the fact that he's sort of distracting off away from the main fight and really just causing Valise to just fall back over here. Going to be continuing now to fight more and more, but it's one of those things where it's like the villager count has evened up. The military count, sure, it's not looking pretty, but they're holding on. They've got a couple of gates going up over here just to prevent the opponent's cavaliers from getting through. Looks like they're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, Max has no food eco. So now the arbalest numbers are even, but we are talking about 50 Cavalier with 8 pierce armor on the field, which means that each arrow does 2 damage on them, and they have 140 HP, so... Yeah, and behind this one, Miguel's eco isn't amazing, but at least he has a consistent food eco. He doesn't have a lot of gold income, so that's something that he's gonna have to fix. But Max has, like, no food income, so he won't be able to reboom or won't be able to mass paladins here.
Yeah, it's a very, very difficult spot for him. Where is the majority of his economy? Because obviously he's got plenty of villages still, 74 villages out. You can see that he is expanding out here towards the east. He's got that another town center going to be going down. That'll be the 6th town center rather, that he places down for this game. But obviously the Cavaliers are running like crazy, and good game gets called with Heresy the victors. So absolutely well played over to them, and just running rings around their opponents.
Yeah, like, in the moment, Max was just pretty much dead. They didn't have mobility, and you see exactly what Miguel does. Just use the mobility of your cavalry, run into the base of Villas here, and Villas will have no tools to stop that because he has to take a direct fight in the middle. Heresy once again coming out strong here, and looks like we have the alternating order of games so far, every team winning their own home map. As I said, this set could easily come down to 7 games. The two teams are really just so close to each other in skill. Probably the closest possible matchup you could get for any combination of teams, honestly, in this tournament.
It's been an insane series so far. Obviously, the last game going 56 minutes, this game going 41 minutes. So, really long games. Incredible talent coming out as well. Just they're playing absolutely insane today. So, yeah, great stuff from both of them.
So, this means that we'll have to go back and take a look at the final remaining home map of the Finns, which is Atacama. A map that can snowball really fast, a map that could be really aggressive. Riverbelt was won by Suomi from the aggressive maps, but Cape of Storms, which probably is closer to Atacama in playstyle, was won by Heresy. And I kind of feel like Suomi doesn't have super amazing civilizations for Atacama. They have Slavs or Teutons. Teutons and Japanese are probably the most reasonable options here. Whereas on the other side, I think Khmer is such a good choice here from Heresy. So, Khmer, and this might be the time for Italians.
Do we finally see the Italians come out we've been saying it for what, the last 2-3 games, maybe.
Yeah,
Perhaps this is the time for the Italians.
they don't really have
I
any other.
smell it.
They don't really have any other amazing cavalry or archer civilizations here. They have Bohemians, but Bohemians are not good as an early archer civ. They start becoming good Castle Age onwards, and this map has quite a lot of feudal age fighting. So Bohemians would be somewhat underwhelming feudal age archer civ here for Heresy. I think Indians could be an alternative to Italians as an archer civ, and then go Malians on Golden Pit as your cavalry civ.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. It's yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be. I mean, it's coming down to the wire at this point. It's as close as it could get. It's gone one, then one, then one. You know, one, then one, then two, then one, then you know, it's just it's been insanity. It's been absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's very, very back and forth. And this is where we have to mention that the Arabia game was won by Heresy. And that's basically the game that they're leading with. So far, everybody has won their own respective home maps. And, well, the difference maker is the Arabia game.
Yeah, it might seem like something small, you know, to give away that Arabia game, but really, in the long run, it can be the difference between winning or losing the entire series because obviously all the cards then, you know, fall out in a certain way. And Arabia is really what you needed just to hold on. So, yeah, I'm going to be curious to see exactly how it manages to go.
All right, let's see if we have a game or not. So, match point in the favor of the Brazilians here. I don't even remember when was the last time I saw Heresy in finals. They are an extremely talented team, but they always end up just a little short. Like there is that top three teams that usually take the top three spots in team game tournaments, and then there is Heresy, like just probably around the fourth or so. So they're always able to put up some competition, but there is very rarely any tournaments where they can consistently beat all the higher ranked or higher seeded teams. It would be amazing to see them in the finals, and it would be well deserved because, as I said, they so far haven't lost a set in the tournament. They came in as a group winner into this one, and it looks like we're going to Atacama, and we have Indians and Malians coming in here, so Italians will probably go unused at this space. I am
Next game. We'll get them next game. Don't worry, Ludicor.
I'm somewhat puzzled by these choices because this leaves Khmer for Golden Pit, which I think is not bad, but I feel like the Khmer could have been best used here just for their bonus of being able to garrison villagers into houses. On such an open map, this basically means that your eco is very hard to raid. So I'm somewhat surprised about this one. The only reason why I can see Malians being used here is because there might be docks coming out for Miguel and Dogao for fishing. Slavs and Tatars, as a response, Tatars are also surprising to me here. Because I thought that that's going to be your civilization for Golden Pit. Would have been a very, very good civilization to combine with Berbers, but it probably leaves Japanese as the civilization for Golden Pit, alongside Berbers and Teutons will go unused.
Mm.
All right, as the spectator countdown goes down, we will have Heresy versus Suomi. Could be the final game of this set if Heresy ends up closing this one out. But for now, it's a match point for them. Suomi need to pull a win on their own home map. So far, they were able to do that, but they will have to do it once again to have a chance. This was a map that Suomi played against My Insanity in the decider set they played, and in that game, Max took a serious beating in Feudal Age, and then miraculously recovered and ended up winning the game.
Speaking of Max, he spawns in on this eastern side of the map, playing as the Slavs. in the yellow color, his ally. Spawning in the south of the map is Valise, playing as the Tatars. Over on the west-hand side of the map, we've got Miguel, who's going to be playing the Indians for us. And then, of course, we've got Degao, his ally, playing the Malians over on the west. So it's going to be west against east. Remember that. You've got your warm colors against your cool colors. So make sure you looking on the mini-map and spotting them out. Be warned, though, that there's lots of little clumps of trees on the map, so it does kind of make it a little bit difficult to spot everything that's happening, but I'm curious to see exactly how this game's going to unfold. Have you got any speculation on what way you think it's going to go, Lidicor?
It's hard to say. The first thing I'm looking at is that Dokao is going to play Archer Civ here with Malians, which is not unconventional, but in 2v2s, Malians is not really that frequent as an Archer Civ, mainly because they're lacking Bracer in Imperial Age, so they don't have fully upgraded Arbalest. That's not really a problem for this map, though, because this map very rarely goes into Imperial Age, and the discount on the buildings means that you can get your second range up really fast. And this also means that Miguel will be playing the Scout Civ role here. For now, Vilas already moving up with Archers, whereas, look at Miguel. He's looking for the Villagers here, shouldn't be able to get any.
He's going to try, though. He's going to try. Oh, my lord, it was so close. It was so close, and he pays the cost for getting so close to that town center. One of the scouts going to be going down, but plenty more scouts coming out now. A couple of spears moving out across the map as well, but we've also got Degao in the base of Max, just going to be trying to take down that villager. Villager does manage to escape with its life, and just being very annoying, just sitting here, not really leaving this area, and now bringing in more units, going to be preventing this wall from coming up. And take a look at that single spear, just doing a great job of blocking the foundation, preventing it from coming in. It looks like a villager is definitely going to be going down. Rest in peace. She was so young, but at the same time, you know, she was serving the enemy, so we had to deal with her. Degao really going to be frustrating. You know, you mentioned earlier in the game that Max had been dealt a lot of pressure the last time you watched him on this map, and it looks like he's under pressure again. It seems to be a running theme. You know, maybe he's getting those walls up a little bit too late, Lidicor.
Yeah, the thing is that he's gonna lose another villager over here most likely, but he doesn't really care. This is the interesting thing here, that he has gotten bloodlines, and first I thought he would just go and clean that one army up with the bloodlines upgrade, but instead he's going straight towards Miguel, and it looks like they would just double team Miguel, saying that, okay, Max is going to take a beating, but guess what, your other cavalry player is going to take a bigger beating than I do.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be that way.
It's one villager going down, and so far Max has lost 4 villagers, only killed 1, so that's an advantage right now for the Brazilians. But Max has defensive towers on his wood lines and his goats. He actually bought himself a second tower, so he should be well defended against those archers for the time being.
You mentioned on his wood, obviously on this map, there's very small clumps of trees all placed together. I'm assuming that players are going to be migrating towards this center because that's where the majority of the wood's going to be. But before they do that, they're going to have to deal with these scouts, because I tell you what, it's going to be 2 villagers going down here. Almost 100%. First villager goes down. Second villager getting chased. The scouts doing their best to try and defend this villager, but unfortunately she does go down as well. So slowly evening up the score, the Finnish players are doing. But at what point a player is going to be migrating out to the center? Obviously, they're going to be hitting up those castle age timings, then expanding out with town centers, or do they move out relatively early like we see Degao do now?
I think it's sort of a personal evaluation. You can go for an early outside, but the real question is, can you get a defensive tower up before you get hit by scouts or, more importantly, archers? Some people just go out in castle age and go for a TC immediately, so it partially is about how much risk you are willing to take, as Miguel does have +1/+1 on those scouts. No bloodlines, but this might be enough to double team Vilas here, and there's archers coming as well.
Yeah, definitely looks like a difficult spot for Vilas. He's here on the south side. Doesn't look like Max is anywhere near him to be able to help out here. Plenty of villagers going down. Lots of archers going to be going down, so they're very happy with taking out just a handful of villagers here, and looks like they might pick up a third one over here. Are they awake? Wake up, Miguel. All right, they look like they've worked it out. This villager doing her best. She's unfortunately deleted a hole in the wall, and has just walked out, but we do have some we've got some archers in the base. I didn't catch whose base that was, but there were definitely archers in an enemy base somewhere on the map. Actually, no, they were in an ally's base. I'm not sure exactly. What are those archers doing up there in Valise's base, right? Or in Max's base?
I think they were cleaning up Dogao's leftover archers, as we got some raids coming in on the other side. Quick was up for Dogao. And the reason why this raid hurt Villas so badly is because he was going up to Castle Age, and he wanted to, you know, get a couple more archers out so he can get the crossbowmen and have a nice group of crossbows with Thumbring. Tatars get that for free. But his was actually delayed going to the gold here because of that raid, so that's going to hurt his archer production.
Yeah, it's just those small things like that that can really have a huge flow-on effect, because it means that, you know, when his subsequent push does come on, it's going to be significantly weaker than what it was before. But speaking of coming on to, we've now got the Max coming in hard right now, bringing in those scouts, just going to be taking down all those archers. You see, he's just having an absolute field day out here. Valise just doing work as well, so really just trying to clean up this force. We do have the castle age that's about to come through for him. Less than 10 seconds to go, but they're having an absolute field day in here. They're going to try and walk away before these scouts from Miguel come in. Miguel doing his best to try and clean this up, but only a handful of archers managing to actually make it out. Max going to do his best to try and block that way, but more archers now beginning to reinforce. We've got crossbow, as well as the upgrade to increase that all-important damage. And I'm curious, Lidicore, at this point, both teams seem to be pretty well matched. We've got 91 villagers up to 89, 25 versus 24 for military production. Do you think anyone's in a particular advantage?
I think the Finns might have a slight advantage because Max is about to go Castle Age here as well. And you could see that Dogao wanted to get the crossbow upgrade. He actually beat Villas into Castle Age. And, well, Max was able to jump on it with the scouts before the upgrades came in. A lot of archers went down. This is why we have 17 versus 9 crossbows. Plus we have Thumbring already for Villas. Added to the fact that Max is clicking up to Castle Age faster, I feel like the Finns are in a good position, and Miguel won't be able to get knights here. And I did mention that the camos only work for the Indian player in 2v2s if your archer player outplays the opponent, which currently doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those concerning things. So it's a difficult spot for him. We do spot that there are some flares going up over on the backhand side here, so they have scouted out that this dock is happening. A villager does go down as well over there, so they are well and truly aware. Whether they're actually going to be able to challenge or contest it, highly unlikely considering just how far away it is in the corner of the base. They are moving out over towards that western side of the map, looking to create a bit of space over here as well as the reinforcements do begin to pile through. A bit of a difficult spot, I'd say, that they're in, because they catch themselves once again in this spot where they're sort of between both players, but then they're going to have the reinforcements that come in, flood the front. So this is exactly where the Finns want to have their opponents. I'm almost having the visions of that game that we watched earlier. It's the exact same positions right now, Lidicore. Villagers going down.
Now, Miguel is waiting for his Castle Age because Indians would get an extra Pierce Armor in Castle Age on their scouts, so he would have 5 Pierce Armor if he gets the defense upgrade as well. That's what he wants to clean this one up, and I think this may be an overextension here from Suomi because they could easily get sandwiched in between two forces.
Yeah, definitely looks like we're going to have a bit of a Finnish sandwich right here. Heresy definitely going to be cleaning this one up 100%. Doing a great job as well as we spot the reinforcements. Just absolutely cleaning house right here. So they're going to be having a field day in cleaning this one up, and they're going to be walking away very satisfied. The main concern that they're going to have, though, is this action that's happening towards the middle of the map.
Yeah, crossbow numbers are now evening out. There is ballistics for Dogao, no ballistics for Villas. Villas actually went for 2 TCs, though, so he already has a pretty sizable eco lead. And this is where we have to mention that at some point with Tatars you have to switch into Cav Archers.
Why?
Because Tatars have great crossbowmen, but they don't have any upgrades. Well, they don't have the Arbalest upgrade in Imperial, so if this game happens to go very, very long, you can't just have a blob of crossbows for Tatars, because those will be a little bit underwhelming in Imperial. So Tatars prefer to play Cav Archers here. Obviously, that's not something that you can go for straight away, but this is the tricky thing with 2v2 Tatars. At some point, you have to make a Cavalry Archer switch.
It makes perfect sense. Thank you very much for explaining it. I'm sure all my Age of Empires 3 followers are going to be thanking you as well, because it makes a lot more sense knowing that we're a little bit unfamiliar with all the unit types, but obviously the Cavalry Archer is just a much more mobile archer, whereas in Age of Empires 3, it represents a completely different unit class, more of a Dragoon, but that's a different story for another day. And now we spot Dogao and Miguel moving in to take out the Archers of Valise. Crossbows looking like they're going to get caught out of position. There's a little narrow choke point here. They do try and stick around just a little bit and fall underneath this town center for a bit of protection. They're going to do their best to try and pick each other off, but it does look like they're going to have to walk away as Miguel walks away with his tower between his horse's legs.
Yeah, we did not have the second armor upgrade for Miguel, so he only has 4 pierce armor on those light calves. And it very much seems like the Finns are playing for a long game here, going for a free TC boom. For Vilas, he's also heavy on stone. And when you start being heavy on stone on this map, that is a castle drop to deny the wood line.
Right, I was about to ask you, where does the castle go on this map, but I guess that makes perfect sense. It's going to be right behind that wood line, yeah. And curiously, take a look at the openness of that wood line as well. When you compare these wood lines to each other, it's almost like, you know, Dogao and Miguel have just got this absolutely massive area for a castle to go in, and compare that over to, say, Max and Valise, who have got no real space for a castle at all. So they're going to be feeling absolutely safe with that risk of castle drops being basically zero. But plenty of action out on the map right now. Dogao and Miguel moving down to Valise's base. Going to be looking to try and find an opening here in one of the walls, but Valise is going to say, hey, there's nothing there. Turn around and go home. And that's exactly what the Camels attempt to do, even though they do open up a little hole in the wall.
Yeah, still no ballistics for Vilas here. He does have thumb ring, but when it comes to accuracy, you probably prefer to have ballistics first. Obviously, you get thumb ring for free, so you're not disappointed, but that's the reason why those camels could all escape, because you're still lacking accuracy here. Looks like we're in for one of the longest Atacama games, though. Usually, this snowballs by now, and I feel like it could come down to who drops that castle first, because Dogao and Vilas are both thinking about it.
Yeah, well, it's curious to note that we've got Suomi, who have built up quite a significant villager lead at this point. Up 31 villagers at this point, so 152 versus 120 of Heresy. So plenty of economic difference there. Obviously holding out pretty well when it comes to military as well. So I suspect it's only going to be a matter of time until they really do begin to pull ahead. Now we've got the cavalry looking to fight up against the camels and just doing this absolute cute little micro technique. I just love the way that it moves. And now we've got raids happening in the base of Max as well. So he's going to be having a difficult time looking for some trades, but not really finding anything, chasing away those camels. I miss the sounds that those camels make. I'm not sure. I'm going to turn the audio on your stream just so I can hear the sound that they make.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the camels aren't particularly great raiding units. They would go down much easier than these knights will. And these knights could easily find a couple of villagers here for Miguel.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty big. Not only idling all these villagers, but potentially there's one villager that goes down. Looks like a second villager going to go down, and third villager? Yep, third one goes down. Is that going to be a fourth one? That is... Nope. That is a... Ooh, gosh, she was so close. She got in by the skin of her dress, we'll say. We'll go with the skin of her dress.
And we'll have some knights coming in. This is what Max is so proficient in on this map. Just going for all those raids, and Heresy needs to force the issue now. They have to go for a castle drop. It's coming. It's all coming. Where can you even place that castle, though? And I feel like this could be the climax of the game.
Yeah, it looks like the castle is going to go in behind that wood line. It's going to be able to poke out that town center. They do obviously spot it. They're going to have to react immediately.
But they can't.
The question is... Wait, they can't spot that?
Well, they see it, but what can you do? There is an army here. In the moment you start moving up, you're gonna die. And you see, Heresy knows that even if this is a bad fight, they need to take it, because they need to guarantee that castle going up. And it's gonna go up, meaning that Vilas will lose a lot of vills.
Yeah, not only does he lose those vills, he obviously loses the town center as well, which is going to be going down. And now we begin to see that real control is getting taken. It's curious to note that we're at 24 minutes, and this is the first castle that is getting placed here in a forward position. Going to be absolutely safe and sit under this. And yeah, as you mentioned, a huge amount of potential right here. The question is, how do you react to this? Obviously, you've got to try and look for Imperial. You've got to try and look for potentially hitting trebuchets, but Are you going to be able to save that TC? Is it worth even saving that TC at this point?
I think it is, and this is exactly what Vilas is doing. He's going into Imperial, he's missing the building for that, so that's why he's making a monastery right now, but he wants to go into Imp, and we'll just go with the castle and trap this one down, and this is why I was saying that while it sounds weird that on a map where you rarely get to Imperial you consider switching into Cav Archers because, oh yeah, we're never gonna get to Imperial, crossbows is all fine, but every once in a while you get to Imperial, and see right now, Vilas has 36 crossbows that will be slightly better because they'll have Bracer and Chemistry, but it's not like they'll be Arbalests. So he's gonna have to switch into Cav Archers, something that he's doing right now. So the best thing he could do right now probably is to trade off those crossbows before they become sort of obsolete.
Yeah, one of the things to note as well, it looks like Max as well is going to be going up as well to Imperial. So 2 players on Suomi going to be looking to hit up. Do we have him clicking up any second now? He should be going up and take a look and spot what he does. But when we compare that over to the likes of Miguel and Dogao over on Heresy, they're just not even close to aging up to the Imperial Age just yet.
And Camels aren't even really great at diving in and sniping trebuchets. Knights have a much better base damage output, so even if you get beaten to Imperial, you can use your Knights, dive in, snipe 1 or 2 trebs, buy yourself some time. Camels are not so great at that. On the other hand, that group of crossbows is becoming very concerning for Max, who also happened to get castle dropped on the north.
Yeah, a lot of castles getting dropped now, and they seem to be closing in with these castles. The town center does go down, getting taken out by the crossbows, but obviously there's still, not a whole lot of oomph that castle's going to really retain. Once Imperial gets reached, you're going to have, 1 or 2 trebs out, and that's going to be the end of that castle. But it's still a decent spot to hold on for the moment. And now we've got a little bit of a push happening over on Max's base because he's got difficult times ahead. A defensive castle getting placed down. I'm not sure whether that's going to be enough to hold on, but it looks like it's probably going to be able to just protect and do enough that it needs to. But now a bit of a difficult spot for him because Imperial Age has been reached by his ally, but there's no reinforcements really coming in just yet. We've got a couple of CAs that are just doing their best to try and push back those crossbowmen, but I'm curious as to whether it's going to be enough. There's infrastructure on the front line, which is probably going to get turned down. There it goes.
Yeah, the stables will go down, but at this point, Suomi has a much better economy, and I feel like in the moment they take down these 2 castles, they will have the chance to just steamroll the wood economy of their opponents. And now those Cav Archers will have Chemistry and Bracer in, so they should have no trouble cleaning this one up.
Yeah, we've also got some trebuchets as well being created, which is no surprise at this point. And that is going to be more than amply able to deal with the opponent's castles. So a bit of a difficult spot. But yes, it definitely looks like Valise as well as Max are doing a great job to sort of hold on here. And you can see that combination of crossbows with cavalry archers just doing their best to try and prevent this attack from holding. But now the camels moving in on top of them and just absolutely melting right now. I think they're meant to counter cavalry, but it definitely doesn't look like it. And good game gets called. Suomi taking this to match point. The final game, the 7th game in the series. We're at 3-3 in a best of 7. Litikor, I hope you're excited. I hope you're ready to take it to the final game.
I am, and when I actually just went in this, I was like, okay, this could easily come down to 7 games, and boy, oh boy, were we right. The 2 teams are extremely close in skills here. They are both very similar in playstyles as well, so both of them are more of the passive and think it over, let's not overcommit style teams. Whereas on the other side, 2 very similar playstyles, 2 very similar skill levels, just ends up being an even set. And this is where we have to mention once again the Arabia game. That we're talking about the Arabia game being difference maker so far. All that Heresy needs to do is just win their own home map. So far, they managed to win all of their home maps. So they just have to continue the tendency and they will have this set.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I'm curious what they've got in store for us. Or in store, rather. Yeah. Maybe we will see some Italians. Unlikely that we're going to see some Italians, but maybe. Imagine if we saw Italians on the last map. There's no water on it, is there?
No, there is no water. Italians is still an okay archer civilization, but it's just a matter of there could have been way better places for Italians, and they weren't used there.
Can we get a prediction in the Twitch chat right now? Are we going to see Italians? Let's put a 2-minute timer on that. Yes or no? What do you guys reckon? Are we going to see some Italians? I'm putting my money on it. I reckon.
I'm
Nah,
going with
there's
I'm going with Bohemians here. Khmer is a lock because you need a cavalry civilization.
Yep.
So it's Khmer plus Bohemians or Khmer plus Italians. Bohemians was their last pick in the draft, but it would suit the style of this map a lot better. Other
Yeah,
side, it's Berbers guaranteed and Japanese, and I kind of feel like I like Berbers Japanese better than Khmer Bohemians, but just by a very, very narrow margin. Teutons could come in as a surprise here for Somi, but that would be a surprise because Berbers is the go-to civ on this map.
yeah, definitely. It's. Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I'm really excited. Oh, I can't believe we got to game 7, Lidicor.
Well, I can definitely believe it, and oh boy, we're all already in, and there's your Italians.
We got it! We got the Italians! Oh, I knew it. I could smell it, Lidicor. I could smell it.
Spoor Bohemians getting the disrespect. That's so
Let's
awkward.
do it.
That's just so awkward because you could have, like, I could see. The thing is that they had a different plan for response. So okay, they don't take it there. Cape of Storm is not really suitable. Kavasam would have been the alternative. Yeah, I can see why they're picking Italians here. It's just awkward because this is not really a map where Italians shine. They're just sort of a okay archer civilization. Most of their bonuses are sort of irrelevant. They can't really use their Genoese crossbows, so they're an okay civ, but they're probably not even as good as Japanese are, honestly.
Well, I don't know about you, Lidicor, but I can see a game right now in my head where Dogao goes absolutely ham and he carries the entire game because he's the Italians and we're on Golden Pit, and it's game 7. We're in the semifinals. It was meant to be. This was written about in the what's it called when people predict stuff is going to happen? You know what I'm talking about, right, Lidicor? The manuscript. No, it's like it was foretold in the stories. Dogao would play Italians on Golden Pit and would carry the Max to victory. Actually, he carries Miguel to victory.
Well,
The
we'll see
prophecy,
if that's
yes.
the case. He is known as one of the better archer players. As the spec countdown comes down, it is time. It's as simple as 1+1. Whoever wins this game gets into the grand finals. Honestly, both teams would deserve it, but one of them will be out in the semifinals level. We will have Khmer and Italians for Miguel and Dogao, and on the other side, Berbers and Japanese for Max and Villas. So, pretty straightforward selections over here. We'll have probably the better cavalry civ on the side of Max's team. And I think the two archer civs are relatively even. I probably prefer Japanese a little bit better in early game.
Obviously, the map that we've got here, the Golden Pit, full of gold in the middle. How much gold exactly have we got in there, Lidicor? Because it looks like a lot.
You have 180 tiles. Sometimes it's a little bit more. 183, I think, is the highest I've ever seen. Each deposit is 800 gold, so with a bit of a quick maths, that's, I think, 86,400 gold, if I'm not mistaken.
That was pretty quick. I'll give it to you. But look, I'm looking forward to this game. Obviously, we're in game number 7. This series has been absolutely insane. It's gone Heresy victory, then Suomi, and then switch back and forth. Not a single game has been won, or not a single team has won more than one game in a row. It has been absolutely insane. And so obviously the prophecy must be complete because Heresy have got to win the last game because Suomi can't win 2 in a row. Legally, it's not possible. It's not viable. It's not going to happen. And most importantly, Heresy have got Italians on this map of all maps. So I tell you what, it's 4 a.m. in the morning, and I've got more energy than what I had at 4 p.m. this afternoon. So let's do this, Lidicor. I'm excited. You're excited. Let's get into it.
Yeah, and I also butchered the math here. It's not 86,000, it's actually 144,000, so...
That's a lot. That's a lot of thousands.
Yeah. That's a lot of gold. That's virtually considered infinite. I've never seen a map run out, or golden pit run out of gold in the middle. Especially because if someone contains or controls the middle, there is gonna be no chance for the opponent to get gold. And it looks like Max's scouts won't look for the hole on Miguel's base. Will just be picked off by the scouts.
Yeah, is there a hole down there towards the south? It looked like there was a hole right against that wall. Yeah, right there.
He will fix it. That's probably not the main issue. He has got some very, very nice gold mines over here, so Miguel's base is looking really good. And on the other side, Dogao's base, sort of underwhelming. And for Max, he's got this awkward shaped wood line that just gives him so much protection.
Oh, that is an absolutely beautiful wood line, isn't it? Look at his base. Oh my lord, when they talk about bases, that is a good map right there. Oh my god, that is beautiful. That's like, give me the map seed and save it, and I'll play against some AIs on it. Like, that's how good that is. That's no rush 40 kind of stuff. That is impressive. But one of the other impressive things about it is we have got absolute all players walled up right now. There is very little action that's happening here. Obviously, Miguel's out here with Dogao. They've got their scouts out. They're just doing a little bit, but there's nothing serious really happening right now. All of the players are going to be looking at clicking up to that all-important castle age, looking at expanding down towards the middle, getting out those really big units. I'm looking forward to it, Lidicor. This is really shaping up to be a good game. Not a lot of action in the early game, so really players are going to be focusing more on their economy, and that means the Italians... I'm liking it. You know, Lidicor, back when I was young, they used to call me Italian Drongo. Do you know why?
Nope.
It's because I like spaghetti.
Well, then you and I have something in common.
All
Anyways,
right.
Max has a villager out here, and I wonder if this lady is just lost, having a nervous breakdown, or what? Nope, she's just going for stone walls. So, Suomi will play this one really safe, like even safer than they used to play the previous games.
Yeah, this is very, very safe. It looks like she's actually given up on that stone wall. I was curious. I was going to ask you a question. Why exactly would you be going for a stone? Oh, I see. Never mind. Not giving up on it, just walling it in a different spot. So obviously, just trying to control the sphere of battle, preventing that expansion from up to the north or any potential raids coming through like that. But very interestingly, just going and putting one pillar down at a time of that wall. I'm assuming that was a misclick or a shift click, something like that's happened.
That's a shift click. He shift queued these buildings after. And the reason why he's going stone walls here is because they probably realized that, okay, we want to fight for the middle. But what if Miguel and Dogao just go double team our starting base? All the gold is in the middle, but your wood eco, your food eco is here. Adding stone walls here would guarantee that basically no counterattack can be successful from the Brazilians.
Now, do we see the same thing happening by Valise on the south side of the map, or is he just opting not to do it? Yeah, it doesn't look like he's really decided to do it, so definitely it looks like Max is taking this game a little bit more seriously, saying, you know what, I'm really going to put myself in the corner, because no one puts me in the corner, only myself, so curious to see exactly what the response is going to be from this. Looks like we might have some expansion already towards the middle of the map. Have we got what's going down, or just some units heading across at the moment? Looks like... that's a wolf just hanging out by the gold pit. Look at that shiny gold as well. Look at the way it shines, but that wolf going to be, unfortunately, just taking some shots to the knee and just going down.
Oh boy, triple stable knights coming in from both our Berber player and our Khmer player. Here the concept is that Berbers have the cheaper knights, so they can go for triple stables pretty easily. Khmer don't have any discount on their knights, but they have a very, very strong food eco, so they might be able to keep pace with Berbers.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I'm just watching the way that these crossbows are coming down now. I'm curious to see, who do you think is going to be the first one to expand to the center? We've got some pings in the center right now.
It's very hard to say right now. You're looking for the Gauss scout here, I believe. Because the thing is that if you start moving to the middle and you bump into an army, you could lose the game with that. So you really gotta be careful and just make sure that you have the superior army before moving in there. So far, if you look at the gold mine of Vilas, it's pretty much running out at his starting base, so he will have to make a decision to make a TC on his other gold mine, or potentially start moving up. Fast tumbling coming in for Dogao.
Yeah, I that is definitely one of the things to be concerned about, is the lack of gold that he's got in his main base. Now a little bit of a fight beginning to break out towards the south. We've got crossbows beginning to move up, push up. Military forces look relatively even at the moment. 41 versus 38. Villager population also even, 91 versus 92. So both teams looking pretty darn even at this point.
Yeah, they are very
When it,
even. And look at what Max is trying to do. He's making outposts. He wants to see what's up in the middle. We'll see if he's going to be able to do that, because there is some spearmen that could spot the villager. But I like that he just wants awareness.
yeah, I think this is a really nice, a nice tactic on his part to sort of get that out there. But looks like that scout's going to be going down, getting cleaned up by a couple of spears that Degao has sent out. He's going to be looking towards that base and definitely angling towards it. We see Miguel also moving towards the north as well. Doesn't look like everyone is aware of it. We see Max and Valise just hovering around down towards the south as these armies begin to assemble towards the north. Undoubtedly, they'd be aware now because that watchtower is watching and spotting absolutely everything that's happening right now.
Yeah, this could be a big mistake, though, from the Brazilians. They're pushing up really relentlessly, but you see Max is massing knights here, and they're coming from the back. They want to trap this army in here, and I think they will have the tools to do so.
Oh, they left the gate open. Is this intentional? Do you think this is intentional?
Doesn't really matter, because there is a layer of walls behind. But, yeah, here they
I'm
come.
gonna play it out to be more important than it really is. Come on, Lidicor. Now the Knights are in a bit of a difficult spot because here we go. Action beginning. The Knights was getting saved up. 4 Knights coming through the back. Looks like walls have been deleted. Now the crossbows beginning to focus down.
We even delete the stable to get this around, so deleting that stable is very expensive for the Suomi team, but they know how important this fight is, and they want to get the perfect surround. So
and they got the perfect surround. Look how many Knights are out right now for Max.
Exactly, 41 to 23. It was very risky to delete that stable and say, okay, we're going to sacrifice some of our production for this fight. This just tells you that they knew exactly that this could be the decider fight of the game. 42 to 23 army, and this is when they move out with both players to the middle.
Yeah, very, very smart. And now the concern is that Miguel is expanded out. Is this preemptive, though? I feel like, you know, if they are aware that he has expanded down here, which they are now aware, Valise does spot it, this is going to be, you know, not only a village is going to be going down, there's going to be a town center going down here. I don't think there's any real way that they can defend this. 49 military up against 26. They're going to try and do their best, but it's going to be nowhere near as easy as it looks, because that is a difficult population difference to overcome.
Yeah, it's double the crossbows. There is 21 crossbows here versus 13. 6 villagers are inside. It's still risky, though, taking this fight close to the TC. And many of those knights are weak, plus you have the extra attack on the blue knights. So this might be a good enough fight here for Heresy, after all.
Yeah, it looks like they're trying to do their best, and Max actually looking to run away at this point. So somehow Heresy trying their best to even this up. They've got just slightly more military population, but what's not included in that military population is the town center. Obviously managing to do pretty well and actually holding down the fort surprisingly effectively.
And Max's knights are really battered here, so most of these knights are super low. Just a couple of arrows and they all die. I wouldn't even be surprised to see a monastery coming in to try and heal them. And remember that Max now had to rebuild his stable, which is a big investment. Now he's on 4 though, and behind this one though, Miguel's eco is looking a little bit forgotten about.
Yeah, there's a number of words you could use to describe it, but yeah, I would definitely say that. And oh, look at it right in the middle of the map. It's perfect, isn't it? You've never seen anything as beautiful as that.
If this doesn't go up, then Heresy is out, I believe. But if it goes up, then Dogao can make Genoese crossbows to melt the cavalry, and as I said, the numbers are tricky here because many of those knights are super battered. Villas will spot the castle here. This is the fight for the game and the fight for the series.
Here it goes, our Lord's beautiful face sitting in the middle of the map, guarded by gold mines.
Oh, but this is great. This is great for Heresy. The crossbows can't target the blue knights. This is amazing for Miguel and Dogao here.
They did a really great job of that, of holding that choke point. Villagers moved back and managed to make sure that that castle still does potentially go up. You may need to pull more villagers in from the home base, but you can just see how hard these guys are fighting. They're pushing in through. Miguel's numbers are looking pretty darn decent, and at this point, they're slowly preventing those villagers from tacking away at the base of that castle. We see Doubt's face still sitting there. A villager going down. A second villager going to be going down.
One hero is still building
going down.
There is still a hero, and there is the boys. The boys are being pulled. It's it. I think it goes up. There's a mangonel queued up, though. This could land a big shot on the crossbows and save the day for Max. He needs a big shot here. Pops out.
Oh, no, not like this. That was huge. That must have been close to eight crossbows that just went down.
Oh, but
Political.
is it enough? Is it enough? I don't think it is. Dogao is getting that castle up. Vilas is mining stone now for his own castle over here. And if he gets a castle up here, then they could push this one down with rams. But Dogao gets the castle up.
Yeah, this is an absolutely insane castle, but I mean, the question is, at what cost does this castle come up? And you know, I'm sure you could probably quote me the prices of a castle, but that's really not what I'm asking. You know, there were a lot of crossbows that did go down there, but they're still in a pretty decent position. It looks like the prophecy may be coming true here. We have seen Heresy look like they're in a pretty darn impressive position right now. How does Suomi even come back from this?
It's really hard. I mean, Max is at 4 knights right now. He's trying to go for more knights here. Also going for fletching. I think their best bet is to go for ram push here. They need a castle around this area, because that would cover rams that are meant to take down the castle. This is why Dogao is making a siege workshop, because he needs a mangonel behind this one to take down rams that will be coming in.
Oh my lord, that's got to be close to 20 crossbows that have gone down this game just from 2 mangonel shots. That is absolutely unfortunate stuff, and the rest of those crossbows now going to get cleaned up by the knights, doing an absolute insane job. And I tell you what, it is such a close game right now. We see the villager counts, less than 5 villages difference. We look at the military unit count, less than 5 military units difference. The only real difference that we've got is this castle in the middle of the map that is shooting down the town center of the Max.
But you gotta ask a question. Is it actually denying the gold? Because that's the big question here. Max still can access gold, and that's what matters most. And if that castle goes up for Vilas, he's about to click into Imperial, and he could have traps out to take that castle down. Quick walls are out. That castle is also going up here for the Finns.
Oh my lord, look at those beautiful quick walls. Just those single pillars going up, even inside the town center, or just like, you know, right next to the town center. Really, really nice, and you're 100% on the money with that. Are they actually able to prevent them from gathering gold? And the answer is no, they're not, because that castle does go up, and we are going to see Imperial now clicked up for Suomi. Vilas is going up on the way. He's got the highest score in the game right now. He's looking pretty darn strong. He's got 66 villages, so definitely not the highest, but his economy is still in a very decent spot. Town center going down in the center of the map for the Max, so he's going to have to retreat, going to have to work out exactly what he wants to do with his life, because mining gold is no longer part of what he can do. But we've got idle villagers in the base of Vilas as well, so they're having a difficult time.
Max being off from gold is a serious concern for Suomi right now, because not only is Vilas up to Imperial, Dogao is also up. And there's gonna be more cavalry for Miguel to snipe trebuchets with, as those cav might actually get cleaned up over here. I think what Suomi needs is a big raid. Like, break into the base of Miguel or Dogao, preferably Dogao, and just take down 25 villas with a raid. That's probably their win condition here.
Yeah, it's a very tough position because, yeah, as you mentioned, both players are going up to Imperial as well. So it's not like they're going to have an easy time with this. It's not just as simple as going up to Imperial and getting trebs.
Looks like some night raids are coming in, and Max does have a gold mine still on top of that hill, but he just got all his villagers slaughtered there. Now Max could also go into Imperial. That could spice things up even more. And since Max is heavy on stone, it's possible he should go for a castle on the outside rim, or maybe even just close to his teammate's castle and just support his teammate here with some traps later on.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the best bet. We see that he is about to click up. He's got all the resources that he needs to do it. And let's take a look and spot.
That's nice defense. That's beautiful defense from Miguel there.
Yeah, he's done a great job. Vilas now going up to the Imperial Age, managing to reach it. About to be quickly followed up by Dogao. Here it goes. There it is. And we immediately see the trebuchets underway for both players now. So they are aware of what they're going to be doing to each other, undoubtedly. And a raid beginning to hit. We've got Miguel up and attacking the Max. So plenty of action all over this map. Down towards the south of the map, we've also got plenty of action as well. So just a huge amount of fighting heading absolutely everywhere. Pretty decent masses as well when it comes to units.
I kind of feel like the problem here for Suomi is that Max is going into Imperial, but it's going to take a lot of time until he gets there, and he won't have a continuous gold income, so even if he gets there, it's doubtful that he can get all the upgrades. maybe it would have been better to just do what Miguel is doing and just go for full cavalry here.
Yeah, one of the things to note is Dugao's actually getting chemistry. This is relatively early, I'd say. I mean, obviously,
He wants to have
it's
Bombard Cannon, I believe, because the way to win that trap fight would be Bombard Cannon. Oh, this is a problem for Vilas. His villagers can't access the castle side, so he can't repair with the required amount of wheels. But the trap runs into the castle fire here on the other side, and if that trap goes down, that's a big loss for the Gao.
oh my lord, it went down.
That's massive, because now he doesn't have enough villagers repairing that castle, and Vilas realizes that he was not repairing either with the required amount of vills. Losing that castle would be a disaster there for the Gao.
Yeah, I think it might be.
And he wasn't even okay, he was queuing a second one, but he needs to pull more vills. For every trebuchet shooting at your castle, you need about 7 vills. Dogao is out of stone and he's about to lose that castle.
Yeah, this is a very difficult spot for him. We see Suomi now beginning to push in as well. Now that the castle is down, we can see just how quickly those arbs come in.
And they sniped the bombard cannon. They sniped the cannon. That was just enormous once again. Really, the clutch moves here from Vilas. Now, the castle here for Vilas is also falling because he doesn't have enough stone to repair either. So we could see a castle trade, but +4 defense is almost in for Max. He just needs 40 seconds before taking this fight, and they could win this fight here.
It's going to be really tough. I don't think he can hold out for 40 seconds. He's probably going to need to engage a little bit earlier than that and do his best, but unfortunately the numbers beginning to dwindle. He's just doing his best just to micro and move his units in a way that prevents the archers from really making sure that they connect. But that town center going to be going down as well as that castle, so this middle area just in absolute shambles at this point. A lot of idle villagers just standing by here. Now they're all on the move. But one of the difficult spots, we've got that armor coming in now for him, so Max is going to be looking pretty darn decent.
And he's going to have Cavalier. Knights coming from the back, though. Arbalest numbers are pretty much even. Way more Knights for Miguel, but those Knights melt to Arbalest, whereas the Cavalier do not, so I feel like Suomi is taking over. But Max doesn't have a reliable gold income. And honestly, Vilas's one isn't that great either.
Yeah, this is an absolutely insane game at this point, Littlecore. I am just in awe at how good this game is. Typically on this map, games run very quickly, and this game already reaching the 31-minute mark at this point, and both teams really not looking to give up any ground when it comes to, either side. It's just everybody wants this center, and this is really what this map is all about. It's about fighting out for this gold. My main concern right now is that we've got Veles and we've got Max, and they're not on any gold. I don't see any villages down here at all. Yet, when we take a look over at Degao and Miguel, they're just, undoubtedly, they're going to be mining out plenty of gold. So while their armies might not look the most formidable, their economies are looking absolutely sensational.
They have 45 villagers, advantage as one. It's a very bad sign when you see skirmishers being tagged into by Villas. They can bridge through this gold problem a little bit by selling stone. You see the stone price is nice. Obviously, that means that they won't be able to make castles, but they can buy themselves a little time, and I think that that's what they have to do. They need to buy a lot of time for Max to get to, like, 40 Cavalier. They will have one big push here, but once again, we have seen how patient Max can be. They just need one push to secure a foothold with those Cavalier. That's their last-ditch effort.
I guess my concern right now is that we've got Italians, and as you know, the longer the game goes on, Dogao on the Italians is going to be looking stronger and stronger. His score is beginning to climb. It's not quite as high as Valise's, but it is still in a very good spot right now, and just
Suomi will
he
trade.
is taking over the game.
Suomi will trade. They are getting Caravan. This is one of the super rare instances of trade being seen on this map. Every time that we have this map, people ask, why are people not trading when they lose the middle? And the answer is that it takes a lot of resources to establish trade, a lot of gold, and you just get overrun before you can do that. But if Suomi can somehow hold this and get trade up, technically speaking, their gold economy will be just as good as Miguel and Dogao's one, and now they're heading towards the food eco. That's what they have to hit.
Yeah, this is exactly like you mentioned earlier. They really need to try and even up this villager count, because at the moment we've got a 45 villager lead from Heresy. They are pulling ahead, so let's see exactly whether Suomi is going to be able to do it or not. They're having a difficult time, obviously, when it comes to their economy. Still not too many villages that have been taken down at this point, so doing a pretty decent job of just keeping all the villagers alive. Only the difference is only 50 villagers at the moment, rather 40 villagers at the moment. So they've closed it down ever so slightly, but
I didn't even see that Villas is down to 40 vills. He
yeah,
had
he's
his
not
brood
having a
line
good
broken
time.
into. He's very focused on microing his archers because if he loses that, they lose the game. But behind this one, his eco has absolutely collapsed. There were some overchops, knights got in, and I mean, villagers are apparently being sent to the middle even with a rally point, and they just get slaughtered by the castle. 40 villagers won't crack it here for Villas.
Yeah, I think it's very safe to say that at Game 7, this is where exhaustion starts settling in, and he would undoubtedly be very exhausted after this. He's been playing for hours and hours on end, and now we've got a bit of a battle beginning to build, rather. And we've got the cavalry over on the right-hand side flank that looks to be coming down the mountain as she comes. And the Arb's going to be picking their fight. It looks like they're doing or dying at this point because, you know, the longer Dogao and Miguel hold out for the middle, the longer or the safer this game goes. As you mentioned, they don't need to establish trade. We've got trade that's being established over by the Finnish players. And the fact is that it's going to be really, really hard and very expensive for them to do it. The fight begins. Miguel moving in, hitting the front line, and take a look at these archers just firing up the hill, having an absolute great time, just taking out these easily dismissing these cavalry units. And unfortunately for him, he's only got hussars that he's able to make. He is trying to raid. He's preventing the opponent from gathering up the wood, but at the same time on the front, we've just got a huge mass right here of arbs. This is ridiculous. We've got 82 arbs here compared to his opponent who's sitting on 13 arbs. And at this point, you know, I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, but it looks like the prophecy may be true. It looks like the Italian stallion, the one and only, the big Dogao, may be pulling this home and may be carrying this game to a victory for Heresy, potentially taking them through to the finals.
The problem for Suomi here is that Dogao is losing a lot of villagers, but Villas at this point is pretty much dead. He's at 46 villagers, 64 population combined. If they can grind down Dogao's villager numbers to like 0 and simultaneously destroy that group of Arbs with skirmishers, then maybe there's a slim chance. But this is like a 1% chance right now for Suomi.
Yeah, it's a very difficult spot.
If this wasn't game number 7 in the semifinals, they would have already tapped out.
Yeah, I think you might be right, 100%. We see just how far ahead they're beginning to pull in on that military difference. We've got 133 versus 43 at this point, 90 villager difference, and Hussars trying their best to idle. They're really just throwing everything at the wall right now and hoping that something sticks. And it doesn't look like anything is really sticking. We've got idle villagers at the moment. There's 43 idols for Heresy, 30 idols for Suomi. But I tell you what, when you're up 100 or when you're up about 60 villagers, it really doesn't matter if you're idling that many because you're feeling absolutely awesome. This push continuing on the front. We've got Trebs to support. We've got plenty of arbs. This arb mass is just undefeatable. It is absolute insanity. And at the same time, we've got 48 heavy cavalry that are out here as well. So it is just such a difficult spot. Look at them.
Yeah, it's 145 or 149 army now. Suomi has a total population of 155. It's a heartbreaking defeat for them because they were so close. And once again, Dogao and Miguel just won their home map. And in the end, the Arabia game is what decided it. And do you remember how I started this set in the intro?
Can you be more specific, Litikor?
I said at the beginning that in this tournament so far, Heresy has won all their sets they played in the group stage and the quarterfinals. They always won 3-2. Every single set they won was...
You did say that. You did say that.
Did come down to the final game. And boy oh boy did this come down to the final game as well.
It's just another classic case of a Civ win. I think that's the best way to say it. I mean, you got Italians. What can I say? What can I say? I'm sitting over here right now with such a smug look on my face, Litikor. You'd absolutely hate it. I can't believe that in the last game of this series, Italians was the civilization that got picked. And Dogao managed to pull it home with such style, such impressive style. Really, he has just shown such great form. And he heads into the finals today. He's going to be feeling absolutely amazing with his skills because, I mean, these two have just absolutely picked apart the Max as well as Felice. And there we get good game getting called. Ladies and gentlemen, they're heading through to the finals. The Brazilians, the big boys, the fan favorites.
Oh boy, what a set this was. Extremely long. 3.5 hours of Empire Wars, and something that gives a lot of attrition to Heresy members as well. This is why we do have the policy that the second semifinals is played at the same time as the first one, and we cast it from recorded games, so both finalists have the same amount of time to recover, or at least approximately the same amount of time to recover. And really, the thing that this may have come down to is that castle falling for Villas. Because that
Yeah.
castle, and if you think back on maybe if Suomi doesn't lose their army beneath this town center, they could have prevented the initial castle drop as well from Dogao. Then if you think about the Arabia game where the Brazilians, my memories aren't sharp as they used to be because there were so many things happening here, but it was the Brazilians that just went and run into Max's base, destroyed his eco. They were the ones that, okay, said, okay, let's YOLO this one. It's risky because we could lose our army, but we could destroy Max. They did so. And from that point on, they just need to win their own home maps, and they did so.
Yeah. I mean, you nail it 100%. And it's just crazy to see that every single team won their home map. And yeah, you really see the goal difference. Look at that. That tells the story. That's everything you need to know about how this game went. That goal difference.
Yeah, and
Because
if you just look at the overall resources gathered by the two teams, that's moderately comparable. Vilas's eco at the end was very weak, so that's why Doga was able to pull ahead. But it wasn't really about how many resources you gathered overall, it was about how much gold you had, and gold units will always be better than the non-gold units. Very nicely done here by the Brazilians. A well-deserved win, I have to say, and a bit of a heartbreaker for Suomi, but we may have just seen one of the best sets of the entire year, to be honest.
it was insane. It was absolutely insane. They played their hearts out. I've never been more impressed in a series. It is just absolute. Yeah, I'm speechless.
Yeah, like these are the series which we often show to people we want to convert to AoE to say, okay, if you want to see a fun AoE 2 set, then this is one of those to look into. Just a little highlight. Max really tried everything in terms of ray booming, even a TC on the far right side behind the base of Dogao, but the eco with Villas was just too far gone. If we look at the overall timeline, Villas was just gradually ground down after losing that castle.
Such a hard position. Really, really, that castle in the middle was really do or die, and the Brazilians managed to pull it off. So incredibly well played to them, and yeah, just an absolutely insane set.
Alrighty, this concludes the first semifinals, but really the show is just about to begin. We still have a second semifinals to go for, and we also have then the grand finals. As I said, the Heresy team will have some time to recover over here.
Can you imagine having to play 3.5 hours of games, and then you get a break, and then you play the finals, but your opponents they didn't get to have that break. Can you imagine like playing 8 hours or 7 hours back to back games? I think it's so important that you guys do that. That you play all of the games at the exact same time, and then force, or watch the next set in replays. It just makes so much sense.
Back then we had those, and there were some issues with that. In fact, on the last LAN event, I remember a day, it was Suomi actually that played something like 9 hours straight. They had like 3 very long team game sets.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. 9 hours. Jeez Louise. All right. Well, Lidicor, it's been an absolute pleasure casting with you today. Thank you so much for inviting me along. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the cast. Lidicor, you're in it for a fair bit longer, I understand. Got a couple more casts ahead of you.
Exactly. So we are just in, and indeed, people should follow Aussie Drongo, who is going for quite a bit of an AoE free content over there in case you like AoE free, and he's gonna do a lot of AoE 4 as well, I'm certain.
Oh yeah, you can definitely be certain. If and when it comes out, I'm looking forward to it. It's how much longer have we got, Lidicor? Mustn't be too long, less than 2 months, I think.
1 month and 23 days.
But who's counting, right? Who's counting?
Me.
That sounds good. All right, Lidicor, well, thank you so much for letting me stop by, and I'll talk to you very soon.
All right. See you
Thanks,
around.
mate. Bye.
Bye bye.